It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. From the Big Technology Podcast, Alex Kantrowitz joins Carolina Milanese from the Heart of Tech and Shira Lazar, COVID survivor. It's going to be a great show. We will talk about what some are calling the worst zero day in a decade. Amazon out for 12 hours. Those 23andMe spit tests and what they're really going to be. And what do you do with Tesla's comically large windshield wiper? It's all coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 853, recorded Sunday, December 12th, 2021. Make it cozy. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Podium. Join more than 100,000 businesses already using Podium to streamline their customer interactions. Get started for free at podium.com/twit or sign up for a paid Podium account and get a free credit card reader. Restrictions apply. And by Our Crowd. Our Crowd helps accredited investors invest early in pre-IPO companies alongside professional venture capitalists. Join the fastest growing venture capital investment community at ourcrowd.com/twit. And by Udacity. Udacity offers online education that's geared toward people looking to take their tech knowledge to the next level. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. Visit udacity.com/twit to learn more. And by userway.org. Userway ensures your website is accessible, ADA compliant, and helps your business avoid accessibility-related lawsuits. The perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. It's not only the right thing to do, it's also the law. Go to userway.org/twit for 30% off Userway's AI-powered accessibility solution. It's time for Twit, This Week in Tech, the show we cover the week's tech news with some of the most interesting people in tech. Carolina Milanese is back. We're great to see you. Founder of the Heart of Tech. She's an analyst. What do you principally cover?
I cover everything that is consumer tech, and now it applies, yes, to the consumer market, but also to enterprise, so future work and how technology is shaping business.
That's what we're talking about, boy. The future of work, whatever that might be. Also with us, expert on big tech. He has the Big Technology Podcast and newsletter, Alex Kantrowitz. Great to have you back. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
It's great to be here. Always nice to chat with you, Leo.
Yes. Well, your expertise is always welcome. You've picked a good topic to be an expert in. Big tech is kind of a big topic these days. Do you think
Go ahead.
Do you think Jeff Bezos will ever invite you up in the New Shepard to see the Earth from a distance?
Only if he's planning to not return that one.
That will be the one. Michael Strahan went up yesterday, the GMA star. We'll talk about that later. Also with us, I'm so glad she's here. We were worried. Scheduled for last week, Shira Lazar said, I can't. I've got COVID-19, but you're feeling better. Welcome, Shira Lazar.
Yes,
from
I'm
what's
here.
trending.
My first public appearance.
This is it, huh?
This is it.
Wow.
You got it, Leo, the exclusive.
You and your SO, your boyfriend, got it. Can we say boyfriend still, or do you have to be
partner?
Partner, I like it. You and your partner both got it at Thanksgiving. Oy.
Yeah, don't say that too loud. My family was mad that I shared that on social media.
One of the things Shira is known for is openness on social media. But I love that about you.
I appreciate it. My family did not appreciate it.
Yeah, my family's always saying, "Why do you talk about us so much?" But what else we got, right?
Exactly. Sorry, that's what we were all born with. This we were born together, so it's the way it is.
It's like being married to a comic. You're gonna be in some jokes. Sorry, that's just the way it is.
The way the cookie crumbles.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. Anyway, it's great to see you. I'm glad you're feeling better. I was worried about you, but I'm glad to hear you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
What's your guy's name?
Chris.
You and Chris are
He
feeling.
also, oddly enough, he doesn't like being on camera also.
I know,
I'm just
you know
around
what?
people that hate it.
I
don't know
noticed
what's going
that
on.
because I'm watching your reels. Chris used to be a big part of them, and then he disappeared. And I asked Lisa, I said, "Are they still together?" She said, "Yes." Chris just doesn't like to be in the.
Oh, she knows. She didn't even
she
need
could
to
tell.
talk to him.
Yeah, she could tell. It's obvious. The last one we saw, he snuck up behind you, and then it was never again.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Oh,
I'm
gee.
glad you're both feeling a little bit better, and you get to take some much needed time off for the
Right?
holidays. Yeah.
Exactly.
So first of all, thoughts and prayers out to the many people dislocated by horrible tornadoes in the southeast. It seems every year now we're reporting that, and tragedy, including how many workers in the Amazon warehouse in Illinois, Alex? It was 10.
It was a few dozen were injured, and I think we're still counting how many have died. So
So horrible. Some criticism of Amazon there, apparently, because one of the things that warehouse workers cannot do is bring their phones inside the warehouse. They leave them behind. And why would that may have made a difference?
Well, I think that if you're allowing workers to have cell phones, if you're treating them like human beings and you trust them to do their job, even if they have a phone in their pocket, then there's a chance they might have been alerted to the extreme weather heading their way.
Yeah.
And all indications was that this caught them by surprise and may have even increased the, death and injury toll. Now, Amazon, I understand the policy in principle, right? You want to have people focusing on the task. But they monitor everybody so closely anyway, right? And so, you're not going to have a tornado every day, but in the off chance that you do, you should have people be prepared for the extreme weather heading in their direction or whatever else might be coming for them. So.
It's a really an excellent point. These days, not having a phone in your pocket kind of disconnects you from the world, oddly enough. And it is a little paternalistic of Amazon to say, well, we don't trust you. You're going to be playing words with friends while you're supposed to be picking and pulling. That's
what people say who aren't to be trusted, that they don't trust you because you shouldn't trust them.
Interesting point. There's a little projection going on. If I were working in the warehouse and I had a phone, I'd be WhatsApping. That's probably the case, sure. I think you nailed it. Somebody in the chat room saying this has Triangle Shirtwaist Factory vibes.
Here's the bottom line is if they're not going to let the phones in, they need to be double, triple prepared for the case of a natural disaster, potentially heading the way of the fulfillment centers.
Yeah.
And, Amazon is so up on the data, they know every little movement that's going on in the factory. So if they don't have anything built in to prepare them for this, they need to at least revisit those processes because, we're not going to say there's blood on their hands, but we are going to say that, they need to do better in situations like this. I think that's obvious.
Yeah. A number of GoFundMes have been set up for the families of the 6 who have passed in that Amazon warehouse collapse in Edwardsville, Illinois. So very sad, very, very tragic. We're sorry to have to report that. There's also very bad news, security news going around. Some are calling this the worst security flaw in a decade, which in a decade has been full of nasty security flaws. That seems like a bad thing. It's a 0-day in a Java logging library, Log4j, that allows about the worst possible scenario, remote code execution by logging a carefully formed string. Now, this Log4j is very widely used. Cloud services like Steam, iCloud, the Minecraft servers all use it. Anybody using Apache struts is likely to be vulnerable. One of the things this brings up, and it's kind of an interesting side note, is how much big business relies on open source applications maintained by volunteers, which this is. They are working night and day, these volunteers, unpaid volunteers, to fix this. It affects any version of Apache Log4j from 2.0 to 2.141. 2.15 has been released, is a permanent fix You can get it, and if you are running, I would hope if you're running Apache struts, you are not only aware of this, but you fixed it. And as far as I know, I don't know of any serious impact from this. It was caught and fixed very quickly, but a lot of infrastructure relies on a small number of unpaid volunteers in this world. And is this something we should fix? Carolina, what do you think?
Well, it's quite shocking. I didn't know that. But given that somebody else had an outage this week and it took a little bit longer to fix, maybe, Amazon should rely on unpaid volunteers too. I don't know.
Yeah, AWS also down. And much longer than the vulnerability in 4JS. This is the famous XKCD dependency cartoon, which shows all modern digital infrastructure relying. It's a block building relying on a tiny little block. A project some random person in Nebraska has been thanklessly maintaining since 2003. Unfortunately, we know now this is really more true than not. Yeah. What about that Amazon outage? How long was AWS out?
I think it was a couple of days, wasn't it?
So it seemed like it was a lot longer than it should be. And everybody relies on AWS.
Including Amazon. So a lot of their own
Yes.
services
Yeah.
were struggling.
The outage was explained on Friday. Hours-long outage earlier this week that disrupted its retail business and third-party online services. One of the complaints people had is that the status page is useless. The problems so they're going to fix that. So at least if they're down, you'll know they're down. The problems began in US East 1, 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Amazon said an automated activity to scale capacity of one of AWS's services hosted in the main AWS network triggered an unexpected behavior from a large number of clients inside the internal network. This reminds me of the Facebook flaw a few months ago. Several AWS tools suffered. EC2, which provides virtual server capacity. Amazon engineers worked to resolve issues, bring back services over the next several hours. It didn't bounce back fully. Let's see, it went down at 10:30 a.m., didn't bounce back fully to 9:40 p.m., so a 12-hour and 10-minute outage.
Do you get like a gift certificate from them, or like you have to pay less money that month when this happens?
I get an Amazon gift card for $13.23.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's something.
Alexa didn't even apologize, honestly.
When these things happen,
Hey.
you really learn who is relying on AWS, which is basically everybody. I don't know if it affected us. We go through AWS. Disney Plus was down. Netflix was down. Ticketmaster. Roomba vacuum cleaners were offline. Amazon's Ring security cameras were offline. There were smart cat litter boxes, app-connected ceiling fans.
The world fell apart.
The world died.
That's like what's worrisome. What if there were drones and everything, and if they went offline,
Just
would
fell out
drones
of the
just like
sky.
bang into each other and fall?
Yes.
Yeah, like
Amazon's own retail operations, as Carolina was saying, were brought to a standstill in some parts of the U.S. Internal apps used by Amazon's warehouse and delivery force rely on AWS. So most of Tuesday, employees were unable to scan packages. It's a bad time of year to not be able to access delivery routes and scan packages. Third-party sellers couldn't manage customer orders. And yes, the status page was one of the things impacted. Oh, well, maybe we shouldn't attach the status page to AWS, because if AWS is down, you don't know. So what they did is they put a global banner on the service health dashboard, which Amazon says we have since learned makes it difficult for some customers to find information. Customers couldn't create support cases for 7 hours because, the support tool also runs on AWS. There's that little block again in that giant tower of blocks, this time not maintained by some kid in Nebraska, but still kind of a little bit of a, choke point, a weak link in the whole thing. There's nothing much to report. I mean, that's Amazon's explanation. It's fascinating to see how much This is the Wall Street Journal headline. Amazon outage disrupts lives, surprising people about their cloud dependency. When your light switches stop working because AWS is down, whoops. The best one is, and this is the lead for the Wall Street Journal. Kyle Lerner and his girlfriend sensed something was amiss when they came home Tuesday and found their 2 Persian Himalayan cats meowing nonstop. They were using an internet-connected feeding machine to dispense kibble, but it had been out since the morning. Oh, this is the best quote. We had to manually give them food like in ancient times.
That is amazing.
What are we?
And of course, they're from California.
Yeah.
They're from Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey. It was like ancient times. I can't. Steve Peters of Los Angeles, also one of your neighbors, couldn't tell his Roomba vacuum to clean up the blueberry muffin crumbs during breakfast. Oh, my God.
This is like an Onion.
This is
article.
the Wall Street Journal. He relies on an app on his phone to beckon the machine. I had to resort to getting a broom and dustpan. It was crazy, said Mr.
Stop it.
Peters. I'm reading from the Wall Street Journal. In St. Louis, losing access to Amazon's Alexa service made Mark Edelstein feel lonely and helpless.
This is weird. People in from generations to come will look back at this, either be like, what was wrong? Or like, I get it. This is like the beginning of the end, I swear.
Here's a picture of Steve, the man with the crumbs, unable to activate his Roomba. Does he look
I think he has something a bit more wrong in his life than a Roomba that needs some help.
sad? This is worse than what is worse than first world problems? Marina Del Rey problems? It is like
Roomba problems.
It's like
In fairness, though, it does make you think about the reliance on cloud overall. And if you're thinking about driverless cars and smart cities, or
drones falling out of the sky,
the danger that we might have going forward, right? Even if you think about, we were out of power, somebody unfortunately lost control and took out one of the posts outside our house. So we were out of power for 4 hours. So nothing in the house was working. No lights, but because everything is smart, but also because there was no Wi-Fi. So yes, like the ancient times, I was just using my phone.
like an animal.
We should have drills. Shouldn't we have drills around this? Okay, for a few hours, everyone, everything's going to shut down. Just prepare yourself.
See what it's
so
like.
that when it happens, we're like, okay, we got this. We have a plan.
I'm surprised you didn't hear my teenagers scream because that obviously impacted their gaming in the afternoon.
Yeah. The Wall Street Journal, I think, is taking a little too much glee in this because, of course, as a mainstream media company, they're probably not thrilled with the internet in general anyway. The outage forced Samantha Sherhog to open blinds in her home in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. She couldn't instruct Alexa to turn on the lights. She otherwise has to move furniture to reach the main light switch in her living room.
I can't. Stop.
So like an animal, she had to open the blinds.
Life is difficult.
In fairness, though, there is an accessibility part of this, right? There are
That's
people
true.
that
That's true. Yeah.
Use voice from an accessibility perspective, and that can be distressing.
Yes. Especially if you're a Persian Himalayan cat who cannot find food in your cat feeder. I love, the Journal, really way too much glee in this, posting these pictures. They're just really enjoying this.
I disagree. I think it's,
that's why we feed our
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's why you
Alex.
feed your animals with food?
No, by hand, because we have
hand.
2 mastiffs. I wouldn't rely on something that might miss work, and then I'll be dinner.
Here's this is typical of our crowd and their response. When the Amazon-powered lights in his home wouldn't work, he checked the website Down Detector. Of course, the lights won't work. First thing you do, go online and see if something's down. It was a sigh of relief, he said, but the experience also made him realize how much he relies on AWS. What were you saying, Alex? Is this something to worry about, or is this just,
Well, first of all, I'll say that it's somewhat miraculous that it wasn't worse. So this was actually better failure than that's 2018 AWS failure.
Yeah.
It was not as bad. And this was a hit to US East 1, which is part of the oldest region of AWS. So if you think about like the way that these things are built on top of each other, you would imagine that if a lot of your foundation is in this, East 1, right? The first region that AWS built in, and it goes down, you'd be in trouble. And like, actually, maybe it's a testament to AWS that most of this stuff actually stayed up and it was only down for a few hours. Like, it could have been much more disastrous. Now, speaking about this Wall Street Journal story, I think it's a lovely story. I'm going to disagree with you on.
It's pretty funny.
I think it's great. I think they really illustrate how much, how do you tell a story like a server farm, going down in a way that's human and accessible. And I happen to think, getting people on record talking about how they had to feed their pets like it's ancient times. I mean, that's kind of give them the Pulitzer. That's a beautiful story.
But let's be honest. You know what happened. The reporter just went to Instagram, searched for people having problems, and took their pictures. I mean, it wasn't exactly, you didn't have to hit the street, in your fedora and with your New Predators notebook and interview people to find this. I think they probably
Instagram is the street today.
It is the street. It's the new street.
They put the shoe leather down on what was remaining up on the internet and made a go of it.
Speaking of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, the CEO, testified in front of a Senate panel this week, examining social media's negative effects on young people. Of course, Frances Haugen, the whistleblower at Facebook, among all the things she revealed that Instagram had internal studies that showed that young women had a lower self-opinion as a result of using Instagram, that it made them feel bad, in some cases even suicidal. Senators, of course, took this opportunity to show anger and ask sharp questions. Mosseri defended the company's conduct. He said, we've got safety measures in place. And in fact, we don't think Instagram is addictive to young people, and most people are not harmed by Instagram, I guess.
There's so many twisted parts. This one that the government cares about female rights.
Yeah, isn't that a joke?
Too.
Yeah, right. Think of the children.
All right. Instagram is also they're like the ultimate gaslighters in this situation. It's like, what? You're feeling crappy about yourself? No, that's just in your head.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, good point. Dick Blumenthal and others created Finstas, remember, a couple of months ago. Fake Instagram accounts posing as 13-year-old girls, which on the surface sounds kind of creepy, but they were, to be honest, not what you really want your senator to be doing. But the idea was to see what kinds of things they saw. And they certainly were fed a diet, if you will, of, kind of bad food suggestions, bad ideas.
I just wish they did this for every other thing we're fighting for. Like, let's put ourselves in the shoes of people asking for a change.
Yeah.
Like, what does that take? No, I mean, there's a legitimate issue. It just sucks that Instagram, until they accept this somehow, then they'll make a difference. If they're going to be in denial of it, because obviously they're liable and there's legal issues around this, they're going to still fight this, but then we're not going to see anything change.
Instagram also says, well, look, we adhere to COPPA. We don't let people under 13 create accounts, of course. Good luck doing that. We ban specific features for kids under 16. But parents, let kids on. You're an avid Instagrammer, Shira. It's how I keep up with you. On balance, is Instagram a positive? It is in your life, I would say, yes.
Two sides of the coin. I think that a lot of my anxiety, there is self-worth wrapped in it, including when your work is focused around a platform, right?
You couldn't not be an Instagram user. You have to.
Yeah, well, and I feel like there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of creativity. I connect with a lot of people and meet a lot of people. There's empowerment, but there are two sides to that coin, including younger and younger, when people are women are wrapping their self-worth around their profiles, or even if they're not building their profiles, but they're like looking at Instagram and the feed and comparing themselves, yeah, that can be very harmful. And I don't know what the alternative is, though. Like, one, make sure younger and younger people are not on the platform, and that I don't know how you create a feed and filter when like that is the world around you. Like the world around you has this. It's just now an amplified version of that.
Right. Well, exactly. In fact, Gali in our chat room says teenagers have always had depression and body image issues. That didn't start with Instagram. I think really the big problem with Instagram is it allows other people, really, and this is the problem. I don't think it's ads. I think it's that other people curate the pictures and the life that they project on Instagram, and there's no way you can live up to that. I always tell my daughter, don't judge your insides by other people's outsides, because what you're seeing is presentational. It's not you don't know how they feel. They probably feel exactly like you do. Yes?
Most of the times they do, but you can't force people to share those sides of them. They'll share what they want to share.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, how much is Instagram part of that versus just this is where our society is moving?
How
and
it is. I don't think it's Instagram's fault. Any platform is going to have this.
But I do think that the more that they're there for creators and for users and create initiatives, and they do acknowledge that there is a problem, then at least that helps. Like other platforms have acknowledged, like, YouTube. You could say TikTok a bit. They're all part of the problem, but the more Instagram fights against this, the more they just seem delusional and continuing to propagate it.
Right. And I remember, I'm sure you do too, Carolina, the days of Twiggy and Kate Moss, these super thin supermodels, which caused eating disorders to ripple throughout the world because everybody thought, oh, well, that's the standard for beauty is concentration camp thin. You have teenage daughters, right?
I have a child, and they were born a girl, and now they're gender fluid, and that brings a whole different layer of, I guess, complication in as much as where they see themselves, who they associate themselves with.
Do they use Instagram?
So they had an account that was a private account when they turned 13. They could not be least interested, and
good.
They
actually want.
Yeah. Well, but what is fascinating to me is why, and I do think that Shira is 100% spot on when she says that the Instagram should start with acknowledging there is a problem, because they're spending more time and resources fighting that versus acknowledging and then trying to solve it. The reason why my kid is no longer interested is because it feels like TV. It feels unreal. And what they actually want is a subscription to Discord, because they want a community. They want people that they want to communicate with that are similarly minded, have shared interests and all of that. And, it is fascinating to me how I think the younger generation in a ways is more savvy to understand what's real and what isn't. But at the same time, it's true, depression and, problem with self-image and weight and so forth has always been there. But it's one thing to see it in your school, your class, your friends, is one other thing to see models and actresses, because that's the idea of beauty. And that is still there. All of that is still there, plus Instagram, right? Yeah. Because the idea of beauty is still the thin and the perfect, and it's still mostly white and blonde and all of that, right? Versus representing the diverse world that we live in. So that's the part where I think my child, being, mixed race and gender fluid, could not actually find what they were looking for from an Instagram perspective.
I do think the world might be changing. I remember in the spring, Unilever, they make Dove and a lot of brands of soap and so forth, said we're not going to use the word normal anymore in any of our products or advertising.
Why is normal?
Because there is no, to say normal is that this is normative. This is what everybody should be like.
Yeah.
And I think that's recognizing the truth And I think so I think there is more awareness of that. I hope there is. And I completely agree with you. Instagram needn't fight it. This is an opportunity to make a difference, to help fix it.
And it certainly is not, we're going to give advice as to how many hours you should spend, and we encourage you to take a break.
No,
really?
TikTok does that too. I hit that every time on TikTok. There's every time, 3 a.m, I'm doom scrolling forever. And finally a guy comes on and says, I swear to God, I don't know. Have you ever seen this? Sure, you must have. Guy comes on.
I have never seen this.
Oh, yeah. One of the TikToks comes up. It's a guy saying, you really ought to get something to drink, take a break.
Move your body.
Move your body. Walk away from the TikTok, buddy. But by then, I've already gone 300 miles down the well, and there's no coming out. Instagram. Go ahead, Alex.
I would just say that there's an important difference between the apps that we haven't covered in this discussion, which is something that came out in Facebook's own research, where Facebook is not like TikTok in that people come to Facebook and Instagram in particular to compare themselves against others.
Oh.
Whereas they go to TikTok for entertainment.
Yeah.
They go to Twitter for news. And Facebook knows that this comparison part of the app is actually a real problem. It's what they say in their own documents. And I think it should have been a focus in the hearing, but of course it wasn't, because when it comes to legislators, I don't think there's anyone less effective than Richard Blumenthal.
Right,
doesn't really seem very interested in doing anything.
Nor am I. I've been down this road long enough to not compare myself to people on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. But yeah, if you're 13 or 14, you're trying to figure out what life is all about. I can't imagine growing up with those signals constantly flooding in on you.
Absolutely.
But in fairness, there is a societal part to this, because you are at that age, starting from school, you're encouraged to compare yourself to others.
That's right.
And I'm not obviously comparing schools with Instagram, but I'm saying from a broader societal perspective, I think
it's not schools. It's the peer group. It's peer pressure. You should be like us. You should be like those are the cool girls. Why don't you look like them? Schools try sometimes. Some schools, good schools, try to fight that. But I think you're right, Caroline.
I don't know. I do think that is the education system too, where, you have a score and you need to fit into some parameters. And, they're outliers, either because you're behind or you're ahead of others, and you're getting into that still, what is considered normal or average versus not. So it's been fascinating. One of the things that we did as well over the past few years was to switch from school to homeschooling, spending a year almost deschooling, and in terms of asking questions and feeling that you can fail and you don't have to get it right, that the process that you go through in working something out, whether it's math or science or whatever, is as important as getting the final and right answer, right? It's quite fascinating.
So actually, this is something that COVID has, in a way, brought up, certainly in the workplace. And I think our schools are very much like workplaces in the sense that they have an industrial era mentality of you come in, we get you to fit into the mold, and we crank out people that fit into society. And it's all about getting you, mushing down the sharp bits so that you fit. And that industrial era mentality, whether it's in work or in schooling, was a little bit challenged, I think, during the pandemic when kids had to go home. They had to do Zoom. They weren't surrounded by their peers. And the teachers were no longer really able to to squish the sharp points out quite as much. Offices had to let workers go home and work from home. And now as we start to emerge from COVID, and I'm sure you might say we are not emerging yet, but as we hope we start to emerge from COVID, I think the world's going to be a very different place. And maybe schooling, they'll take an opportunity for schooling to rethink how it works. I know a lot of kids are still Zooming to school. So here's an opportunity. Alex, do you see that you must see that in tech companies kind of reassessing post-COVID?
Yeah. Well, I think that, like, we all know that the hybrid workplace is going to be the way that we move forward from this, and we're never going to go back to 5 days in the office, mandatory for everyone inside every company. I think that's over. I think it's pretty good, honestly. Like, we've now realized that there's a balance where we can, look at what's happened with the economy since we went into lockdown. It's, been on an amazing run. And of course, some of that has to do with federal stimulus, but you can't tell me that productivity in the economy has slowed down in a noticeable way. If anything, it seems like it's the opposite. So we should give workers the opportunity to spend a couple of days, at home and a couple of days in the office, if that's their decision. Or maybe you trust people to spend every day at home.
Yeah.
And we're starting to figure out the ways that we're going to make this work. For instance, I was just on a Zoom meeting where we had me and then somebody else remote and then two people in the office together, and they kind of sat side by side on their own laptop. So they each get their own Zoom bubble. And then me and the other remote guy had our own Zoom bubble. And was it weird? Yeah, it was a little weird, especially for them, but it worked.
We're doing it too. It's hybrid. Yeah, exactly. a lot. We're doing it too. Instagram does say they're going to bring back a chronological feed, not right away. Now, I don't understand what's so hard about a chronological feed. Adam said the company has been working on a version of the feature for months. See, to me, it's like the hard thing is a non-chronological feed. Chronological means in order. But
not only that,
go ahead, Alex, and then
they
Shira.
Started with the chronological feed.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, what exactly are you developing that's going to take you? Were you spending months on this? You already had it. I really.
Here's what Mosseri said in a blog post in June. The problem with a chronological feed, is it's impossible for most people to see everything, let alone the posts they cared about. So we, in our infinite wisdom, are going to tell you what posts you care about and make sure you see those first. Shira, you had something to...
Yeah, I was just going to say, why don't they just have a choice? Like, you could have the choice of seeing chronological.
I think that's the idea. Yeah.
Curated. I mean, the issue with the chronological too, there will always be a reason to like complain, because it is cool that, if you're posting in your creator, people could discover it a few days later. There is a feeling like people are just going to start like hyper posting, right? Just to be in front of people.
Oh, that's
so it'll be interesting to see how our behavior changes in that way.
But then you just unfollow.
True. Yeah. I mean, that is true. So, I mean, I just think make it easier for people to discover stuff from other people. Like, I feel like Twitter does a decent job at that.
They're not chronological either.
Are they not? I feel like I go on Twitter. Really?
Yeah. Well, that's a kind of a matter for debate. I think they're semi-chronological.
They're algorithmic. Like they definitely filter that feed with an algorithm, and you can choose. But I bet most users don't even know that option to choose exists.
Yeah, that's true.
Viewers still actually use it. So there was actually a big uproar about this in 2015, I believe, when they said they would introduce it, because they started off like Instagram, pure reverse chron. And people said that Twitter's live and there shouldn't be an algorithm. And I actually broke the story that they were going to put an algorithm within the week. And there was a whole big thing. Jack denied it. And about 1 million people over that weekend tweeted #RIP Twitter. But I think that if you're a user of the platform, now that it's way better with an algorithm than without. So I give them credit. It's made the service better. Same with Instagram. I'm pro-algorithm.
You're pro. I'm anti-algorithm, because I think algorithm is what gets us in all this trouble. That when people join Facebook or Instagram, they follow the people they want to follow, mostly family and friends, and they want to see everything that person posts. But Facebook doesn't show you that. My mom my mom doesn't post anymore, but let's say some relative, my sister, I maybe see half of what she sees because, it's too much. You don't want to see all of your sister's. Yes, I do. That's why I joined. Algorithms are what gets you in trouble with extremism. Algorithms what tells YouTube to take you down the rabbit hole of QAnon. I think the algorithms are the problem. But I've been saying that for a while, Alex. Talk me out of that, because you're pro-algorithm.
Well, yeah, it's the way you design the algorithm. So I would definitely want something showing me the stuff that it thinks is most relevant. I've tried both the Facebook and the Twitter feed on chronological or reverse chron and then algorithm. and I prefer the algorithm, but it does get into trouble sometimes. I don't deny that. And I
well,
think
the problem is an algorithm which works completely automatically, right? I mean, this is not a human
exactly.
picking.
And by
It's
the
going to
way,
generalize. Generally, I think an algorithm is going to optimize for engagement. Thinking, well, you spent more time on that post, you want to see more of that. And while that's good for business,
so
it's why I get a lot of bikini videos on TikTok.
OMG.
So here's what we're going to get.
It's not that I want to, Shira. I want to explain this.
Sure.
It's not that I want to.
All right, now you're
but
just
if there
digging the
is,
hole.
you told me this yourself. If there is a bikini video, I'm a guy. I'm going to slow down. I don't want to, and it's not what I want to see more of. But I go, oh, I don't know, and then I move on. You have to actively on TikTok say no, because if I look at that, no, I'll see more of it. You have to, in effect, manipulate the algorithm.
Yeah. That's why I get all these cards. You know, I get these tarot card and like new moon things. I'm like, holy crap.
Because they know you're a hippie.
Every psychic is speaking to me or something. Anyway, Alex, sorry.
Yeah. Well, we've only done a couple of years of social media algorithm. Like if you think about where we are with when Twitter did it and Instagram did it, this all started in 2015, 2016. So we're only 6 years in. So I think that we went from these pure reverse chronological feeds to algorithmic feeds. Now what we're going to go to is a future where you have the opportunity to toggle back and forth, but also pretty importantly, the opportunity for you to tell them what type of feed you want. Facebook's even working on something where you can tell it what mood you want it to put you in. You know, do you want it more light or do you want it reflective?
That's an acknowledgement that Facebook manipulates your mood.
Absolutely. It definitely can manipulate your mood, but the better thing is that it just gives you an opportunity to tune it yourself versus putting it in the hands of Facebook.
I'd
Then
like to
also
be
that's
emo
dangerous.
depressed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
I agree,
because,
it's dangerous.
Because then it's what the algorithm assumes is happy, what the algorithm assumes is sad. And then, so you're typically cutting out a lot of content from LGBTQ or BIPOC communities or stuff that you need to see to be informed. It's like a lot of times the algorithm puts content like that or individuals in those communities.
It enforces a filter bubble.
Groups.
It puts you
and
in
saying
a box.
Exactly. That's like the danger of this, like, which is what they really need to figure out. Like, how can you be customized? How can you give people what they want while not filtering out things that people need to see and get to see, right? And the voices and communities that matter as well in all of this.
Yeah, and I'll grant you, Alex, if algorithms worked perfectly, I'd be pro-algorithm too.
Yeah.
The notion of an algorithm is good.
I think it's a work in progress, but I really do like the fact that they're going to let you tune these feeds to the type of experience that you want. And I do think it's a good thing to give people who use these platforms agency over their experience. And I just found the post. So what Facebook is working on, and this is still in development, but it came out in the Haugen leaks. So there's 4 moods that you could pick: recharge, feel good, throwback, and cozy. I don't know. I mean, like, these things are
cozy.
Cozy. I feel cozy.
Yeah. I'm into it. Let's try it out. Anyway,
so you know what's going to happen? So like, there's going to be something that comes out okay, what's the genre that everyone's looking at on all these platforms, and everyone's going to start playing into that genre. I'm going to start making my Instagram feed a throwback feed because I see that throwback content does really well. I think that it's really fascinating. Like, how do you stop people from then feeding into that type of content that they know works, right? Or more people like, and then we're back into the same scenario as we were before.
Yeah, I'm just glad that those options aren't like outrage, fake news.
Because that's honestly really.
Can I pick the cancel experience?
That could be a throwback,
Yeah,
but that's actually what's happening, right? That's the real thing that's happening. So maybe it is better if you say, look, not outrage this week, just cozy.
Cozy.
I mean, if you follow a lot of cat videos, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get cozy.
That's our. It should be the new political slogan for anyone trying to change the internet. Make it cozy.
Make it cozy. Cut me some slack. I'm glad you're feeling well, Shira. It's great to have you. Shira Lazar is here. PeaceInside.live. If you want to find some peace, and of course, the founder of What's Trending, still going strong. What'sTrending.com.
Yep.
It's great to have you.
There you go.
She's been a maven since the beginning of the internet.
It's been a while.
Yeah, you're still quite young, but Yeah, you're kind of a founder. I think you're an internet phenomenon. So nice.
I
to see.
appreciate
And I'm
that.
glad you
Thank
survived the big C, the new big
Yep.
C. Alex Kantrowitz also here. He is all about big technology. His book, Always Day One. Is it all about Amazon, or is it about more than just Amazon?
It's a chapter each on Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft. But I do look at like the culture of Amazon in particular as a foundation for what companies can do well when they're trying to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, how the tech titans plan to stay on top. From Penguin Random House, of course, available on Amazon. Is there an audiobook version of that?
Yeah, I read it. It was the last thing I did before going into lockdown.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I was able to lose my voice for a couple of days and it was fine.
We'll get it on Amazon then. I'm a listener. I like to listen. Also with us, Carolina Milanese. Am I saying it Milanese? Is it Milanese? Do you like that?
Milanese.
Z.
Yes.
Milanese.
Z.
A woman of Milan.
That's right.
Is that right? Am I making that
It's
up?
close. No, you're not. It's very close to Milan. Yes.
Near Milan, close to Milan. Founder of the Heart of Tech and an analyst, and it's always great to have you on as well. Our show today brought to you by Podium. Talk about the new world order. It's funny in the I don't know, maybe the 80s or the 90s. If you were a business, I guess it started really in the late 90s. You had to have a website, right? Before that, you had to have an answering machine. Then you had to have a website. Then you had to have an email address. Slowly you had to have an app. Nowadays, thanks to the pandemic, we've kind of got used to this idea of frictionless interaction with businesses over text messages. And you probably noticed this. Maybe you went to a dentist and as you left, they sent you your appointment for the next time you'd be there. Or even sometimes they said, leave a review on Yelp or Google. Let people know. Maybe you got a bill from a company. Maybe you've used texting to try to reach a company so you don't have to play phone tag. This is the way business gets done these days. And more often than not, when you're experiencing that, you're experiencing Podium. Podium is the way to stay in touch with customers. Local businesses everywhere, all over the country, are turning to Podium because they make every interaction with a customer as easy as sending a text. And your employees love it because one inbox means they don't have to go all over the place to help customers. It makes it faster. It makes it better. Everything that makes your business great can be done faster. It's not just really a better way to communicate. It's a better way to do everything. You can get reviews from Podium. You can collect payments from Podium. This is very effective. I'm sad to say there's a local ice cream store that uses Podium, and every once in a while they say, we haven't seen you in a while. Here's a coupon. Come on in and get some ice cream. It works. It works. Podium makes it all as easy as pressing send. You're going to free up more time. You're going to grow your business or you get more done. But most importantly, your customers are going to love it. With Podium, you'll also close more deals with customers before the competition even has a chance to call them back. It's just frictionless. It's what we've come to expect. Join more than 100,000 businesses. They already use Podium to streamline their customer interactions. You can try it for free at podium.com/twit. And if you sign up for a paid Podium account, you'll get a free credit card reader. Restrictions apply. Podium.com/twit. There's a great demo on there that explains how it all works. It is easy to get started. You could have it done by the end of the show, and your customers will just love it. I know I do. Podium.com/twit. Julian Assange, extradition in his future. Apparently, he had just had a stroke in jail because of the tension of this. The U.S. appealed the UK court's decision not to extradite Assange from the UK. The UK High Court has now granted that appeal against an earlier refusal by a UK judge who said, we're not going to extradite him on mental health grounds. The UK Secretary of State has the final decision. I am really curious what you all think of this. At first Julian Assange was a hero, right? WikiLeaks exposed the U.S. using drone strikes to kill journalists and civilians. That was in WikiLeaks. But as time went by, WikiLeaks started to look more and more like an arm of Russian foreign policy. On the other hand, Assange always said, they're going to come after me because governments can't tolerate the information that we post on WikiLeaks, and they're going to find me and they're going to get me on some trumped-up charge. The U.S. does want to put him on trial for conspiracy to hack and computer misuse, which, for whatever you think about Assange and WikiLeaks, is, in my opinion, exactly that trumped-up charge. They're saying Assange encouraged and taught a hacker how to hack over chat. I don't think that's demonstrable. He'll face 18 counts connected with obtaining and disclosing defense and national security material, primarily in 2009 and 2010. I'm curious what y'all think of this, because it's funny, as time goes by and Edward Snowden is in Russia, and I'm starting to think maybe Snowden isn't, the golden-haired boy we thought he was. Assange is now going to be sent to trial in the U.S., and I'm thinking maybe he's not quite the bad guy we thought he was. Alex, what do you think?
I think this is one of the cases where you have to wait for the trial. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that the U.S. government's going to have that we haven't seen yet. Is it possible that, Julian Assange did everything above board? Yes. And if so, then he shouldn't be put in jail. Obviously not. But, if there are demonstrable moments where he did, break U.S. law and end up hacking stuff, I think you have to enforce those rules. Now, what am I rooting for? I'm rooting for Julian Assange to have not done any of that stuff, because I do think that what he did was important and in the public interest.
He's being charged because of the Chelsea Manning leaks. He's being accused, at least in part, for kind of encouraging hacking and stuff like that in these chat conversations. But these were the airstrikes that I was talking about. I think the information, when you speak truth to power doesn't like it so much. So, I
think we don't want to.
Can he get a fair trial in the U.S.? I guess that's the real question.
Well, can anyone get a fair trial in the U.S.? I guess that was an important part. But I generally, I don't know. I was going to say I trust our judicial system. There are parts of it that aren't trustworthy, but it's a good system. I mean, some of the tenets, innocent until proven guilty. People need to be proving stuff beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, let's see what it looks like in court. But again, the activities that Julian Assange did, I'd be rooting for it all to be above board and for him to be able to walk, because ultimately we need people that are going to be able to stick their neck out when it comes to publishing damning information that governments don't want out there, but is in the public interest, which is exactly what he did.
I feel like we don't know and may never know what really transpired. And I don't know if a trial, I agree with you. I would love it if a trial would reveal that and give a jury the chance to decide that based on real facts, not manipulated facts. I'm going to cross my fingers on that as well.
If the U.S. tries him, which they are, it's going to have the U.S. interests at stake, right? It's like, I don't know if I trust the judicial system in that way, because they know the repercussions of then proving that it was okay and he's in the right. I feel like there's a lot of fear of what that means in the future.
Yeah. There's also lots of evidence that Julian Assange is not a good person. Although he was accused of sexual assault in Sweden, those charges have been dropped. He could
have done something that was ethical in certain ways, and then there's other parts of him that are unethical. I think that two truths in that way can exist.
Yeah.
I think that there's a difference between being a whistleblower and helping, the common good, and then and hacking just for hacking's sake to create chaos, right?
Yeah. I also don't see how it was a hack. I mean, Chelsea Manning had access to this through her job.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then it's not a hack.
Yeah, the U.S. Espionage Act is notorious for being broad enough to prosecute people the U.S. doesn't like.
Exactly. They're going to use him to make a lesson, right?
Yeah.
And that's basically it.
And,
I don't think
even Chelsea Manning is out of prison thanks to clemency from the president. So I just don't know. And I wish we could say with some certainty, well, this is good. Justice will be done, and we'll find out. And if he's a bad guy, he'll go to jail. By the way, part of the extradition agreement is that he could serve his time in Australia. He's an Australian citizen. And apparently he trusts the Australian jails more than the U.S. jails.
I think it's an interesting conversation to have, at the end of a week where two journalists received the Nobel Prize for journalism and had really harsh words about what it takes to be a reporter today, and speaking truth to power, and walking thin line to get to the truth. And I think is like you all. I hope it did everything according to the books and in the name of revealing some of the things that the government has done. And because we need more people like that. We need, I think I'm a new American. I became American 3 years ago. And I have to say that I have my doubts about the check and balances of the system. And so I hope that, he did everything right. And like you are saying, and there isn't, the question I think that has come up a few times is whether it was to his benefit or the benefit of the people, so to speak. And surely, we have come to understand some of the steps that the government is taking from an air raids perspective that we weren't aware of.
And by the way, thank you for bringing up Maria Ressa. She's a journalist in the Philippines. Dmitry Muratov, a journalist in Russia. Both won the Nobel Peace Prize for their fight for freedom of expression in very difficult circumstances in Russia and the Philippines. And there was a great quote from Rappler about how difficult it is to be a journalist today. Oh, I wish I could find it. But anyway, yeah, you're absolutely right. The fight against the media is not a fight against the media, said Mr. Muratov. It is a fight against the people. Excellent. Without freedom of expression and freedom of press, this is part of the award, it will be difficult to successfully promote fraternity between nations, disarmament, and a better world order to succeed in our times. Nice to see journalists win the Nobel Peace Prize.
And it was interesting how they brought up social media as well, and how, in a way, journalists are the ones who are seeking the truth and sharing that truth, and they do that despite social media, right? Because social media is not set up in that way.
Yeah, the Nobel Committee said Ms. Ressa and Rappler have also documented how social media is being used to spread fake news, harass opponents, and manipulate public discourse. Only the 18th woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize in its 120-year history. So, yeah. Congratulations. It's nice to see journalists get recognition for what is actually getting to be a much more dangerous profession. Fortunately, not for tech journalists. So far, anyway. We're all going to be okay. Big revelation from The Information. Speaking of great journalism, about a Tim Cook deal with the Chinese worth $275 billion. Now, this goes back in time to 2015. You may remember around 2016, it was getting harder and harder for Apple to work in China. Apple's iPhone sales were plummeting. Apple apparently, Cook decided to go to the country, meet with senior leadership, made a 5-year agreement in secret. This is the first time that's been reported in 2016 to quash a sudden burst of regulatory actions against Apple's business. This is Wayne Ma writing for The Information. Before the meetings, Apple executives are scrambling to salvage the company's relationship with Chinese officials who believed the company wasn't contributing enough to the local economy. So Cook very effectively took charge here. And now the real question is, now, does that mean Apple is kind of in the back pocket of the Chinese Communist Party? They kept this agreement secret. The information quotes a political economist at the University of California, San Diego, Victor Shi, who says Apple, as a global company, needs to appease the Chinese government because China is a large market and a large production base for Apple. But at the same time, the vast majority of its consumers are still located outside of China. And as their opinion has turned increasingly negative toward China, Apple likely wanted to avoid the optics of groveling to the Chinese government. I don't know if it's fair to say grovel. They announced a investment in DiDi Global, $1 billion investment. That's the Uber of China. They went to China. Jeff Williams, Lisa Jackson, and CEO Cook went to China to meet with the Chinese government leaders at their secretive leadership compound, Zhongnanhai. Neither side disclosed details of the visit, but they signed an economic deal with China worth, according to the information, $275 billion. Microsoft, this is not the first. Microsoft did similar things in years earlier, somewhat smaller commitments. Cisco did the same thing. These deals are technically non-binding, but Chinese officials take them more seriously than officials in other countries do. They are more binding than you would think. An international attorney who writes about Chinese law, Dan Harris from Harris Bricken. What do you think? I mean, you can then trace this to China kind of moving its servers, its iCloud servers, to the Chinese mainland last year, perhaps bowing to Chinese pressure to remove VPN apps from the App Store in China, to go so far as to change maps. So as not to offend the Chinese government. And it's made a difference. iPhone sales have suddenly gone up in China considerably. China's State Bureau of Surveying and Mapping told members of the Apple Maps team sometime in 2014 or 2015 to make the Diaoyu Islands appear large even when users zoomed out. This is, oh my God. This is there's been a long-running dispute between China and Japan over who owns those islands. Chinese regulators threatened to withhold approval of the first Apple Watch if they didn't change the maps, so they did. So apparently when you view the Diaoyu Islands in Apple Maps, they appear on a larger scale, they still do, than surrounding territories. It's interesting the things governments want you to do. Chinese regulators ordered Apple to shut down its iTunes store for China 6 months after it launched in 2016 because it didn't have the necessary, quote, content licenses. But they fixed that. So it's not surprising to hear that China and Apple have some sort of back channel agreement.
Backdoor.
Yeah, backdoor agreements. Does it? How do we feel about that? Shira, does it bother you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like it continues to feed into their BS and their continuation of just like putting a chokehold on the entire world. I mean, they literally, it's wrong and it's dangerous, but then it's like, what are companies supposed to do unless they decide not to be in bed with them and not to make these agreements?
Yeah, like Google famously said, well, goodbye, China.
And at a certain point, someone needs to do that. I mean, like, you can continue doing these deals. What, now that deal is over, possibly they need to pay them now even more. Like, until companies take a stand and say, like, we're going to lose this money, but then gain more on the other side of it, like take a stand against China, nothing is going to change. I think it's really dangerous and it's getting worse.
China revenue from the Greater China, which includes Taiwan, $68 billion. China now represents 19. That's to Apple. 19% of Apple's total sales. That's a big chunk of your market. So yeah, this is the question: is how far do you go to appease a totalitarian regime when it's a fifth of your market? Will you just do whatever they say? They withhold currently privacy features for Chinese users. They comply with China's data security law, requiring foreign companies to store more data about Chinese users in the country. At that point,
profiting
by the way,
against like human rights violations.
Right. At that point, by the way, Microsoft's LinkedIn and Yahoo discontinued their Chinese operations rather than accede to those demands. They censor the App Store and news, of course, things like Tiananmen Square, VPNs, LGBTQ-related apps blocked.
I think that
Go ahead, Carolina.
I was going to say is the price of doing business in China, and you need to make a decision whether or not, from a company perspective, it is worth you doing so, not just from a business perspective, but from an ethical perspective and who you want to be as a brand. I'm not surprised that Cook took care of it himself, because obviously his pedigree has been a supply chain. He spent a lot of time in China working with government from a supply chain perspective, so is very well connected, and he knows how to talk to people. I do think that the reason why maybe they don't get the scrutiny that they should is because the impact is on Chinese people, not necessarily on people internationally. Yeah. And so, people are quite happy to kind of turn the other way and not be concerned about it. But the question is, how far they go to fit into what the Chinese government is requesting for their own user. I don't really think the increase in smartphone sales is necessarily linked to the deal that they made. There was a boycott of Apple for a certain period of time because it's the U.S. brand with the biggest presence in China that came as a result of a ban on Huawei here in the U.S. But it was very short-lived, and people didn't really seem to care enough, I suppose, about Huawei not to buy Apple in China. But generally, consumers have stayed with the brand, and the increase in sales has way more to do with the products that they're selling and, the design of the iPhone and so forth that came with the recent models, but not necessarily the deal. What is interesting, though, is that, the companies that you're talking about, Google, LinkedIn, all of those companies is more on a services side than not the hardware side. Apple is depending on hardware. They're not really making a great deal of revenue from a services perspective. Is really all on hardware sales.
Well, that's changing, though, rapidly with Apple. Services are becoming
outside of China, for sure. Yeah, but not necessarily in China.
Yeah, they're kind of foregoing that, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, this is something big tech in general has to face. If you want to be a global company, you're going to deal with less savory characters, shall we say, and you have to make this decision. How do they deal with this?
Well, I think that the other big tech companies are handling it better. I mean, find me a company that's more smug, more self-satisfied, more moralistic, more preachy in its marketing than Apple. Talking about what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone and how you could really trust it. And then you see what it's doing. I mean, getting in bed with the CCP, and they have their data storage in servers that are owned by Chinese Communist Party subsidiaries. So, I think that every company needs to make its own determination about what it will compromise to operate in China, because it's always going to be a compromise. But I think that for Apple to do this and then persist with its marketing messages, to me, is extremely hypocritical. And I think eventually it catches up with the company. I mean, people will eventually start looking at this stuff weird if they continue to see this news about Apple.
That's a really good point. I don't know if there would be so much criticism if they weren't so sanctimonious about it. They've kind of brought it on themselves, in other words.
No doubt. I think the sanctimony, it works for them. They're viewed as a luxury brand, but Steve Jobs, but when he talked about marketing, he said it really is, you got a short amount of time to tell people who you are and what you stand for. And if Apple's telling us it's about privacy and safety and security on one hand, and then doing these things that we're seeing in China on the other, that marketing will no longer align with what it actually stands for and who it is. And I think it will fall apart.
Actually, that's one of the big stories this week. We're going to take a break. When we come back, does the Apple Do Not Track button actually do anything? Increasing research shows no. It's as Carl Bodie says in the Tech Dirt, privacy theater. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. This is Twit. Carolina Milanese is here. Alex Kantrowitz, Shira Lazar. It's great to have all three of you. Our show brought to you by Our Crowd. I love this idea, Our Crowd. You know, from my whole life covering technology, I've been watching is people I know, people like Kevin Rose, get in on these deals at the ground floor in these tech companies that they go public. They have an exit, and suddenly these guys, they're buying fancy watches, driving fancy cars. And I go, how do you get in on that deal flow question? Well, Our Crowd is the answer. Our Crowd is actually very cool. This is a venture capital firm who helps accredited investors get in on these early stage startups so they can be there for the big exits. They analyze companies around the global private market. They look at those with the private notice market. These are not companies that have gone public. These are companies that are under the radar in many cases. They pick those with the greatest growth potential, and then they present them to you in areas like personalized medicine, cybersecurity, robotics, quantum computing, and more. In state-of-the-art labs and startup garages and anywhere in between, Our Crowd is seeking out and identifying innovators so you can invest when growth potential is greatest, early on. Now, you have to be an accredited investor to do this. So when you go to ourcrowd.com/twit, it'll ask what country you're in, and then you'll see the requirements, because every nation has different requirements for net worth and so forth. But if you're an accredited investor, you're sophisticated enough to say, I want to go beyond investing in the stock market or buying mutual funds or index funds. I want to get a little taste of the exciting stuff that's happening that so far up to now has only been available to angel investors and VCs. This is a great way to do it. Our Crowd's accredited investors have already invested $1 billion in growing tech companies. There have been 46 exits, 46 IPOs or sales of their investments. Many of their members have benefited big time from these exits, and now you can. This is, again, something that I would look at only to diversify your portfolio, only if you're an accredited investor, but it's a great way to get in early on innovative private market companies. Our Crowd does the legwork. And of course, at no time are you obligated. There's no cost to you to join Our Crowd. It's only an opportunity that you can look at. Accredited investors can participate. There's a couple of ways you can do this. In single company deals for as little as $10,000. You don't have to have millions to invest. Or you can get into their funds. They actually do an Our Crowd fund. Number of funds. The entry of that is $50,000. But you do have to have at least $10,000 to invest. Investment terms are going to vary, as I mentioned, depending on what country you're in. What you should do is find out more information. Just go to the site, input the country you're investing from. You'll see what the requirements are. But if you are an accredited investor, I think this is a really interesting way to kind of get in early. Let Our Crowd folks, they've got the deal flow. They're willing to let you in on these deals. And of course, these are deals they're already in on as well. Join the fastest growing venture capital investment community right now. No cost to join. ourcrowd.com/twit. Even for just informational purposes, I think this would be fascinating. ourcrowd.com/twit. I should mention, because I cover these companies, I don't invest in them. That's one of the reasons I've been sitting on the sidelines watching Kevin Rose get rich. But that's fine. That's the choice I paid, and I'm very happy about it because I probably lose my shirt. But if you are somebody who wants to invest in these companies, is a great way to do it. ourcrowd.com/twit. Really interesting idea, I think. All right, let's talk about this. Carl Bodie, Apple Do Not Track button is privacy theater. We're starting to see research. Financial Times had a big article. It all started, of course, 7 months ago when iOS 14.5 came out. And Apple started surfacing a setting it had always had deep in the settings every time you install a new app, saying this app wants permission to track you across apps, yes or no. And of course, when you say it like that, people are invariably clicking no. In fact, about 80%, it's estimated, of users say, no, don't track me. And Facebook took out ads. Carl says, Facebook cried like a disappointed toddler at Christmas. Except we're going to lose millions of dollars. In fact, Facebook was smart. They didn't say we're going to lose money. This is going to hurt small businesses. They took out full page ads saying this is terrible. But really, maybe it wasn't that bad. All it did was turn off the ID for advertising that Apple has, the IDFA. And what's happened over the last 7 months is companies like Facebook and Snap have figured out how to track you without it. It wasn't that useful. Financial Times says, 7 months later, companies including Snap and Facebook have been allowed to keep sharing user-level signals from iPhones. Apple didn't block that. As long as that data is, and again, I'm going to put this in quotes, anonymized and aggregated rather than tied to you specifically. So all of the information that was tied to your IDFA is now still coming to them, just not tied to your IDFA. But as we know, and many, many studies have reported, anonymization doesn't work. It's fairly easy to disanonymize that information. And in fact, there's lots of ways to do it. Companies still can exfiltrate information about things like how much storage you have free, what your IP address is, how much RAM you have, enough information that they can fingerprint you. So they may not know your name, but they know you. So this is the question. Carl writes, Apple's opt-out button is largely decorative, helping the company brand itself as hyper-privacy conscious without doing the heavy lifting required of such a shift. The Financial Times quoted Lockdown Privacy, which is an app that blocks ad trackers. They say Apple's policy is functionally useless in stopping third-party tracking. They performed a variety of tests on top apps and observed that personal data and device information is still being sent to trackers in almost all cases. In other words, you check that box, all that blocks is the IDFA. Everything else is still going on. Now, I have to say, I use an iPhone. I don't care because, to me, advertisers knowing more about my preferences is not a harm. But I'm not a privacy, a strong privacy advocate. Shira, you use an iPhone, I bet.
I do.
Are you worried?
It is worrisome, of course. At the same time, I feel like unfortunately, I'm of the mindset like they're going to find another way.
Yes.
And it is annoying. Like it is annoying to feel like you're being, and I don't want to feel like I'm being listened to in that way. I feel like if there's a way to serve me up ads that are more relevant for me, then I'm open to that. Like I'm open to supporting small business and all that, but who am I really supporting? Am I supporting small business or am I supporting Facebook and Instagram?
Both.
Right? Yeah.
Because small businesses buy ads from Facebook and Google and Instagram and WhatsApp.
Kind of a nature of the game right now. But I do think that, like, let's be real about it. Like putting this lip service up, it doesn't help. And so how do we be more transparent? How do we feel like we're, opting in and like having the choice? Is it possible to actually have that choice?
It just increasingly feels like this is marketing lip service from Apple instead of a genuine commitment to privacy. And that's disheartening. I mean, I know Google's snooping on me. I know Facebook's snooping on me. That's their business model. But Apple sells hardware. They don't need to enable these people. Carolina, what's your take?
I think we have a similar conversation as to what we were saying about Instagram. It's fascinating that, companies spend these 7 months figuring out how to work around it versus spending 7 months figuring out how you can better serve me. Because I don't have a problem being tracked if you're using the information in a smart way that serves me, right? And unfortunately, there's a lot of companies that still don't do that very well from an ad perspective. And I think that's, for me, I'm also not a very strong privacy pro person because I live on the internet and I share too much about my family too, Shira, so... But, it's all about what's in it for me. I'm being very selfish. Like, track me, but show me that you're using the data to my benefit, not yours. And so I think that to me is where the conversation should be. And as we talk more and more about AI and how AI is going to be part of the way that we serve better ads and information in general by using that even anonymized data points, then do a better job at it. I do draw the line at Facebook. I'm not, yes, I want to support small businesses, but I go and support them somewhere else versus over Facebook. I just don't think that is like the algorithm discussion earlier. Is that algorithm serving me or serving the platform? And I do think that it's serving the platform. Now, from an Apple perspective, I agree. I think that there could be more to be done than what they're doing. And the conversation is also, okay, you're so against what Facebook is doing, and yet, we can all use Facebook, right? You're so against Google, and yet you are working with Google. So I think there are different reasons why people might be kind of skeptical about the privacy pro push that Apple has been serving over the past 2 to 3 years.
I'm probably, and I get heat for this all the time, I'm not the guy to talk to about this, because I think the whole privacy thing is overblown. You're on the internet. My take is nothing you do is private. It's all out there. It is chiefly used for advertising, to make advertising targeted. I have no problem with that. In fact, the reason I stopped using Instagram is because I kept buying every third thing that came up. It was so effective. It was so much targeted to me. I have so much stuff that I don't want that I bought on Instagram that I stopped using the platform as a result, because it was effective. That's the only negative. It works. Advertising works, and it's targeted and it works. I guess you could say, well, what if government gets that? And we certainly know that law enforcement has access to a lot of information from your smartphone and from carriers. And again, it doesn't bother me. Now, if you were an activist, a dissident, if you were gender fluid, maybe you might be more concerned. I'm a old white man. I got nothing to lose. So I understand that other people may be more concerned. But on the balance, I don't know if this is... I think you're asking a lot to say, I want all these free services, and I don't want them to know anything about me. Alex, am I nuts?
No. I think you should have the option. And that's what I like about this Apple update. And I'm going to...
if it did something.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm about to take Apple's side.
Good.
I'm taking Apple's side.
Good. Somebody has to. Good.
I think that what they do is block the individual tracking. If they have broader anonymous, and we know anonymous has some issues, but largely anonymized, aggregated information so that advertisers are now advertising to cohorts of people, not individuals. So advertisers are tracking groups of people, not individuals, and are able to optimize based off of that. I think that's actually where we want to go on the web, where it's not one-to-one marketing that like a lot of advertisers like to talk about, but is creepy to users. But if it's a group, if it's targeted, but not that targeted that you kind of feel like they're listening to your conversations, I think that's good. And
so like the Google cohorts thing, Flock.
Yes.
I
happen to think that that's a good solution. And I think that I feel a lot better, having companies track me in a group of 20 people than they do individually, because ultimately, like, let's say you take a worst case scenario where an engineer wanted to know everything they could about me and violated all rules to be able to access that information. If they find me as part of a cohort, that's very different than if they find me as an individual.
What if companies said, okay, here's your choice. No privacy, and you get the service for free, or let's say $3 a month, and you got privacy. Would that be acceptable?
In some cases, yes. I mean, I'm paying for Twitter Blue, which allows ad-free access to a lot of different websites.
Ironically, they promise no privacy from Twitter Blue, but you get other stuff.
More.
Yeah. Right. So I have no problem, paying for something premium. I mean, I'm paying for it twice, actually. Once for me, once for big technology. So $6 a month to Twitter. I know Facebook's considered making a pay product as well.
Yep.
I think it gets kind of difficult when you talk about going to other markets and when you think about their average revenue per user in the U.S.
Well, also, we know really what these guys will do is charge $3 and still invade your privacy.
Exactly. Yeah. So Leo, but I'm totally sympathetic that when someone builds something, you should be able to, give them something of value in exchange for that. And if it's not going to be money, it can be data. And that's why I think that since we're going to make this compromise on the internet as it is, let's move to cohorts away from individualized data that can still work for advertisers. And there's this storyline, it's very interesting, the storyline that they're still collecting all the data and it's working just as well as it had been in the past. I mean, I've spoken with advertisers who've seen the impact of these changes that Apple has made firsthand. And I can tell you they're moving their money away from Facebook because it doesn't work as well anymore. And Facebook has, advised investors that its stock is going to take a hit because of it. So I do think that it's actually real, but not real enough that Facebook's, advertising business has gone off the cliff. And I think that's a pretty fair compromise for everyone.
Yeah.
But I think Alex's point about, if you cannot afford to pay for the service, your compromise should not be data is really important, right? Because that's a little bit the argument that Facebook has been using, saying, well, we don't make you pay for the service, so we have to do it this way. And we did actually a research when the first time that the idea of paying for Facebook circulated, nobody wanted to pay. We served about 1,500 people here in the US, and nobody wanted to pay, which to me goes back to when the service is not critical to people, because otherwise you would be prepared to pay. But what is fascinating is that we talk a lot about privacy and data being used online. But I can tell you that in my move from California to Georgia, I have no idea what I checked to have every mortgage company, every moving company, everything.
Somehow they know.
Yes, they do. And clearly I've not done it online because everything was coming through my mailbox.
Wow.
So, it's not just online, it's real life too. And that continues, even now with services being pitched and whatnot. So there, old fashioned distribution lists still exist.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes. I'm a little sympathetic. Advertisers want to reach people who are moving. So they figure out, they buy mailing lists. They figure out. Did it bother you or getting mailing about that?
It doesn't bother me, but it really made me realize that we are getting so hung up on the online part of it, and basically is digitizing something that we've been facing for years, right? It's just a different medium.
I know. I mean, I know this is completely counterculture, but so what? What's the harm? Look, you're going to get advertising. It's not like the choice is, do I have ads or no ads? It's a choice between ads targeted at something you might be up to and ads that are just random.
Well, there's a difference between that, and spam, being spammed.
Well,
that's
nothing's going to stop spam. I mean, that's the thing. But you're getting all this mail. We're talking about trying to save the environment. How much
Why do
paper
they think
is that?
I want so much Viagra? I mean, what?
The bikinis and the Viagra.
What is it they know about me? You know what I'm saying?
They know your TikTok feed, Leo.
So I don't particularly want ads for Viagra in my spam, but spammers don't care. Spam is so cheap that it doesn't matter what they're sending as spam out. Most spam is not something you'd ever want to buy. But spam is free and cheap. Those mailers in your mailbox, that's not, unfortunately, the U.S. Postal Service does subsidize it, so it's practically free. It's very cheap. And those ads, those Instagram ads, those are expensive, relatively. Don't you think if I'm going to buy an ad, I want to kind of make sure that the people who want my product will see it, not the ones who don't? I think people are knee-jerk about this. They feel like I don't want anybody to know anything about me. But that's not realistic. We live in the world. People know a lot about you, even if you're not online. And
I don't know. I don't know that people are unrealistic. I think that people want to know who knows about them and what they're going to do about it. Do you know what I mean? I'm online, so clearly I want people to know something about me, because otherwise, part of my business model wouldn't work. But that is my conscious decision of sharing data with people versus you're taking something from me. I'm not quite sure what you're taking. And then I'm not sure how, companies are using that. And I go back to my point. If you surface, ads that were actually relevant for me, I wouldn't mind it as much. It's just when you get bombarded by stuff that really you don't care about.
Well, that's mostly
And
just a complaint of how
bad.
bad ad recommendation services are. That's more a software problem than a privacy problem.
There needs to
that's
be
what
some
it is.
regulation.
It feels to me like people are childish. Okay, I'm not you guys, but people are childish. Not you, but other people are childish, saying, "I want my free services. I don't want to pay for them, and I don't want you to spy on me, and I don't want any ads."
Don't you think there needs to be just some regulation? I think that all this stuff has advanced so quickly that there hasn't been any regulation, and so it's like a free for all. And I think that's what consumers are saying. Like, we need to start setting boundaries, or else then anything can be used and taken advantage of and used for the wrong reason. And I mean, like, that's the issue.
Well, of course, there's always that. And this is somebody in the chat room saying the same thing. Faux pas saying, the thing is, you think they're only using your info to advertise to you, but what might they be using it for? But as yet, nobody has shown me that's happening.
Well, yeah, Facebook. What about in the election?
Manipulate. Yeah, but I knew who I was going to vote for. I don't care if Facebook shows me ads for somebody I'm not going to vote for.
The question is where you draw the line,
It's
right?
always when
Exactly.
people say that,
Alex,
it's
exactly.
always when people say that, they're always saying, well, it's not going to affect me, but think of all the dumb people it's going to affect. It's like, how patronizing can you be?
Well, Leo, like, advertising's always been targeted. So you started by targeting based off of, like, the content, right? And so if people were watching, people are watching your show, right? Your show is targeted based off of content.
Yeah, we do it the old-fashioned way. We figure if you're a geek enough to listen to this show, you probably want to hear some geek
exactly.
stuff.
And so you can run targeted advertising without knowing everything.
No, I don't know anything about our audience.
That
Right.
tunes in.
That's
and
right.
I bet the advertising works really well for your advertising.
I hope so.
Then you go down the line a little bit, and there's, on the internet, we started breaking things down by location, by age and gender. And that was fine too. I don't think anyone has a problem with that when you do it, broadly segmented. And then we went another step and we started targeting, by browsing behavior and interests. And then, eventually you could basically pick out the 1,000 people you need to reach and find them some way. You can target based off of credit card information and all that type of stuff. And so the question is, like, when we think about advertising online, we're going to make that compromise between getting shown advertisements and using free products everywhere we go. And the question is, what is fair for a person to give up in order to be able to use these products? Because, we were able to fund through advertising lots of great stuff, including this show. And we don't need necessarily to go so granular to the point that people feel creeped out. And I think that's the discussion here. And I think it's a reasonable question in terms of where you actually want to draw that line.
I'm just saying you shouldn't be creeped out. Why are you being creeped out? Just if you're creeped out, go move in a cabin in the woods, because it's happening. Look, it happened to Carolina. She didn't have to announce she was moving. They just knew. I mean, but it's not.
Okay.
Carolina, did that feel creepy? I guess it might have.
It didn't feel creepy. It was just annoying. 'Cause I didn't need what they were advertising. It would have been much more useful if they told it how much of a nightmare moving Comcast would be.
I think honest data. The data shows that people are creeped out by this. If you think,
I
about
know
how
they
many
are. They
people
say it all the time.
Actually,
I know.
And not only that, they're voting with the way that they're using this Apple opt out, and most people are opting out of Facebook targeting. So yeah, I think that largely people are, and we can have a discussion about whether they should be or not.
They shouldn't be creeped out.
But
People get creeped out in the same. They thought somebody was reading their mail when Gmail, was advertising based on keywords in your Gmail. And the thing that was creepy was they were anthropomorphizing it, like, there's somebody reading. Nobody's reading your mail.
Sure. Well, okay, Leo, is there eventually a place where online advertising tracks to the extent that you start to say, hey, maybe that's too much, or is every single
No,
thing?
because it's just advertising. If you don't like it, ignore it. The real problem, I think, people don't like ads. They would just admit this, you guys. You don't want any ads. You don't want any ads. And people use ad blockers and all sorts of things. They don't want any ads. I don't want any ads. But it doesn't work that way because you're getting a free service that's ad supported like ours. We give people a choice. I mean, they can pay $7 a month and not get any ads. A tiny fraction of our audience does that. Far more probably just skip the ads or block the ads because I don't want any ads. I don't want to pay for anything and I don't want any ads. I think that's a childish point of view.
Well, I think that's a straw man, Leo, because that's not what people are saying. They're not saying they don't want ads. The real question is, again, like how much tracking should there be? Like if an advertiser is tracking my locations, and I just walked into Shake Shack and Chick-fil-A sends me a message and says, get out of there. We're going to give you something.
Is that creepy to you?
$1 I think it's
it could be a benefit. Maybe you go, oh, great. I'd like that $1 at Chick-fil-A.
I know. I think that specific instance is fine, but there are going to be weird situations.
It's invasive. It's intrusive.
Well, I don't know if it's fine. I mean, if you're a woman and who knows that
exactly.
I'm in Shake Shack?
Yeah, it's being normalized. That's weird.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, that specific creepy. Example is okay. But let's say
I could see it would be creepy if you got an ad said, hey, I know you guys are trying to get pregnant right now. Maybe
how about this?
There is that does come up.
I know. Yeah. I guess that is creepy.
What if you walked into a Planned Parenthood and you get an ad trying to explain to you the harms of abortion? I mean,
But I think all of this is really that you just don't like ads.
I disagree.
What do you want? What do you want, ads? You want, the ads should just be for barbed wire and concrete and chicken houses, and I don't care.
All right, I go to the map for this. I mean, Leo, think about what ads looked like before all this targeting, right? Like Mad Men, the whole show is them trying to make beautiful ads. It was all about...
No, the whole show was trying to get you to smoke cigarettes.
I mean, yes, but okay, bad example again. I'm throwing out the worst
and
ones.
drink a lot of alcohol.
Drink a lot of alcohol you didn't want and feel bad about your bad breath because your coworkers just didn't want to tell you.
But advertising used to be nice to look at because they knew that the image and the story was going to be what was going to sell something, not the fact that they were targeting someone so granularly on the internet. And I think that we could get to a better era of advertising with a little less tracking, a little more focus on the creative, and maybe we'll have less people hate ads because they'll actually be nice and nice to look at and pleasant to consume, unlike what we have today.
I do think it's more than the ads. It is really about what else are you using that data for and who's buying it beyond advertiser.
Well, that's my question.
I do think that
and nobody's ever, I mean, so there's people will say, well, what if insurers bought that and didn't insure you because you eat a lot of Dunkin' Donuts?
Right.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen because the first thing the insurers do when they check you out before they give you insurance is say, do you eat donuts? They don't. And if you lie about it, then they don't pay off. So they don't need, I haven't seen that's ever happened. There's some sort of insurance redlining because
it's about consent. It's about how much will they know about you without you actually saying it's okay to disclose that, right? And that's the problem. And the more we move that needle, then it's I think it's the feeling of companies and ads controlling you versus you controlling it. And that's the biggest fear as humans control.
There is this skeezy business of data brokers who are getting all this information, selling it to anybody who wants it, often law enforcement, collating information from a variety of sources to de-anonymize it. So there's this whole, subcurrent of people doing this. But, and yet, I don't know, maybe it's, again, I'm a cis white male in my 60s, so probably I'm never going to be harmed by this.
Well, no, everyone can be harmed because if your data is being sold and used in another way than what it was it's there or intended for,
I'll tell you,
that could be harmful.
I sure got a lot of Medicare solicitations in the mail, online, everywhere else because they knew when my birthday was. And I ignored it because I didn't need to know that information. But that's how the world works. It didn't offend me. And it didn't feel creepy that people know how old I am. In fact, somebody took my birth date out of Wikipedia, and I told the chat room, put that back. Because it said, he's 64 or 65. We don't know. Put my birthday in there. Who cares? I'm being a little bit. I understand. I'm being a little bit provocative here, and maybe speaking a little more strongly than the other. But I often do wonder what is the real harm. What is the real? Carolina, give me the worst case scenario of people knowing all
I
that
really
stuff.
don't care about the ads per se. I do care about the amount of information that.
So what are they going to do with it?
Are going to have as. I don't know. I don't know if it's about, what is going to end up into a machine learning system that will, I don't know, grant mortgages to people. I don't know. It's the idea of creating so much data, generating so much data that is going to be used in a way that I don't know. How are you going to use all that you know about me to make decisions about, how you survey, not from an ad perspective, but actually about me as a person? That I think is the part that concerns me. And yet I don't decide to be offline, and I don't decide to, not share some of the information. But it does concern me. I do draw the line on some of the public information that I put out there. I don't know. Is knowing if I had a COVID test and a vaccine, and how you're using that information for insurance purposes, or
here's an example.
Well, that's for public health. And
here's an
also
example.
knowledge.
23andMe, which has my genetic material and a lot of your genetic material, they were an advertiser back in the day, has said that they are sharing information with cancer researchers now because it might be helpful to have all that information so that they can come up with a cure. Right?
See, I rather an opt-in. Like, once you give your information,
I agree. I would opt
and
in.
then you have an alert that says, hey, because you've used the service, you can opt in for it to be used for this. Are you okay with that? And being very specific, and you get to research, and they're transparent. And then every time that it's being used for a different thing, you get to opt in. It's not like you're like selling yourself, and then now they have just.
Yeah, that's slightly different because I paid
go.
them a lot of money for my kind of spurious DNA results. And they kept the spit. On the other hand, there's a real benefit to, working with AstraZeneca or whoever to create new medicines and so forth.
But you should be able to choose that, because that's you. That's your information.
You know what?
It's your body.
I can't say that they didn't offer me that choice. I probably, in the fine print, agreed to that.
Probably. But that's the thing, is it's fine print. It needs to be
Right.
more obvious, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So even though there's a great societal benefit, like, there may be a cure for cancer that comes out of this, you still say it's, they should have asked.
Yeah, because it's your choice of how you want to be involved
data.
in these types of things. Yeah.
And actually,
Because just because they're using, if some people are using it for good, how many other people could be using it not for good? And like, have these companies built trust?
yeah.
Have they always been amazing and like in good faith? Can we say that?
Yeah.
No.
Well, and DNA information is different in one respect. I can't change my DNA, and my kids share it, so I'm sharing
Or
information.
what if they could like then replicate you? It's just like
I would love it if they could
conspiracy
replicate
theories.
me. I hope they can.
I was like, what do they
'cause
do with that after?
I
when
want to
you're
keep
gone, right?
the Twit empire going forever. Anyway, interesting questions. We're going to take a little break. What if they could replicate you? Sure, if you could put your...
You don't know what they could do.
If you could pour your mind... You're too young yet. You're not worried about this. If you could pour your mind into a jar...
Oh.
Carolina goes, ugh.
No, my husband would tell you that the world cannot take two of me. So that's fine.
Live forever. Would it be you? We don't know. It might just be something that acts like you would have acted, but it's not really.
I don't know. That's
You've
really
never thought about
weird.
this?
I have. I mean, I watched The Good Place,
Yeah, I think about it all the time. Like, when is that going to happen? I hope it's soon.
I mean, Elon Musk probably has the answer.
I should mention, if you hate tracking and you don't want to be tracked, We are an ad-supported network. We're free, and I'm very proud of that. It means it's democratic. Anybody can listen to our shows or participate with the network in any way they want. We have an IRC that's open to all. We have a Twit forums. We have the Mastodon instance. All that's free. But if you, A, would like to support us a little bit, or B, don't want to have any tracking, and C, don't want to hear any ads, there is an option for you. I do wish more people would join Club Twit. I love this idea. In fact, if we could, I would just say, let's just be an ad-free network and you pay for it. But that hasn't worked out so far. But join Club Twit. $7 a month gets you all of our shows ad-free. It gets you access to our Discord, which is incredible. I mean, really a lot of fun. It's a great community. I'm a big fan of that. And you get the Twit Plus feed, which has stuff like, Burke spraying Christmas all over the studio on Tuesday. Things like that. All you have to do is go to twit.tv/clubtwit, twit.tv/clubtwit, and you can find out more. And by the way, we also have corporate memberships, and we got our first corporate membership. I'm so thrilled. If you want to know more about corporate memberships, when you go to twit.tv /Club Twit, there's at the bottom there's more. But I want to really thank David Hickman and the folks at Resource Management Concepts, rmcweb.com. They bought 300 corporate memberships for their IT and security team because they love security now. They can listen ad-free. Thank you. That's a great way to support what we do and avoid ads and tracking. See? It seems like a fair, less than a super duper frappuccino a month, and you get all of that. twit.tv/clubtwit. Now, if you are a member, you didn't hear that ad, and you're not going to hear this ad. And you know what? You should be sad because this is a good product. It's called Udacity. Udacity is actually changing the world. Started some years ago, about a decade ago, by a Googler who realized that a lot of the people coming and applying for jobs at Google, even though they had computer science degrees and master's degrees, didn't actually have the raw skills Google needed. They founded Udacity with one goal: to give people an online education geared toward taking your technology to the next level, to getting the information about the career you want, giving you the skills for that career, and then getting the job. And Udacity does it. They're here to encourage your career growth with their cutting-edge nano degree programs. You could see the references on the website, like the Udacity graduate who was working at a local Nigerian airline, lost his job because of COVID, decided to turn things around. He applied for the machine learning scholarship program. And for Microsoft Azure, within 6 months, he transitioned into a career as a data analyst. I know so many people who are working now, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and elsewhere, thanks to Udacity. Check out some of the Udacity nano degree programs. Data engineering, very hot right now. You could learn how to be a product manager. Companies are desperate for this. Data analyst, data scientist. How about programming for data science with Python? Or things that are even more cutting edge. Perhaps you'd like a nano degree program in AI or flying cars, an autonomous flight engineer, machine learning engineer. One of the things that's great about Udacity is they work on these programs with industry leaders like Microsoft and Google and IBM and Amazon. So, in fact, the teachers you're going to get are team leads at these companies. So you're going to get the kind of knowledge they know you need from experts who are working in that field every day. I also think very important that their courses are project-based. This is active learning. You don't just learn, you actually have to build projects. You get graded on projects. You get homework and projects will be reviewed by qualified professionals in the field. That doesn't just test your knowledge and solidify your knowledge. It actually helps you build a portfolio, which makes it easier to get that job because you've got on GitHub, you've got, I built this, I built that, and that really makes a difference. It really does. They're going to help you do that too. But you're not alone. They've got a great mentorship program, 24/7 mentors. By the way, 24/7 because Udacity is truly global, all over the world. People are doing this. They have day jobs. They want to get a better job. You could go 5 to 10 hours a week, learn at your own pace, graduate in as little as 3 months, get that job right away. I'll give you, and they have some great scholarships too. You should check those out right at the bottom of the page. Under resources, you'll see scholarships. There's one from an organization, great organization, 110 Blacks in Technology. They teamed up with Udacity to offer part-time online tech scholarships for Black Americans who don't have a 4-year degree. Up to 2,000 full scholarships for qualified applicants. They're available. Apply today, udacity.com. Just again, there's more. Just go to those scholarships under resources at the bottom of the page. If you're a business, Udacity has an enterprise section. You can upskill your entire workforce with Udacity. Very popular for teams. Learn more at the enterprise section of Udacity's website today. So bottom line, get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. Udacity, Udacity, udacity.com/twit, udacity.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support of our show. Let's see here. Back to work. The advertising segment is over. Have you started to see more and more reports of Tesla's full self-driving vehicles going off the road, hitting things, crashing? You got to wonder, autonomy is still quite a ways off. Mercedes-Benz has received the world's first approval for their automated driving system. Don't get too excited. It's only for certain areas of the Autobahn in the new S-Class and EQS sedans. You have to go in these geofenced stretches of highway on the Autobahn. And this is really the deal killer as far as I'm concerned. You can only go 37 miles an hour. That's confidence, right? I think you're actually more of a hazard on the Autobahn if you're going 37 miles an hour than not. Really, these are designed for stop-and-go traffic, heavy traffic in geofenced areas of the highway. But they got government approval. This is the first level 3 self-driving system that actually satisfies the Germany's Federal Motor Transport Authority that the system is safe. I don't know if they'd approve Tesla's full self-driving. I have a feeling not.
I don't need some confident D-bag on the road thinking, I'm in a self-driving car until I'm the person like in front of him or them. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. It's like you feel so confident because of this technology. And then lo and behold,
guess what? You're in the beta program too, Shira. That guy behind you, he's not steering. Good luck.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like that one time they fall asleep, they're on a call. Maybe they're, I don't know, making out because they're in a self-driving car.
Or here's another nice feature of the Tesla, playing a video game.
Yeah, no, we do enough of that. You don't need to do that while you're driving. Like that does not help anyone.
Drivers can play video games while their car is moving. Most of the time.
Hell's to the no.
Hell's to the no. Most of the time when you have these kind of big displays, you have a cutoff that says, well, you're driving. You can't be doing that. Tesla says, this is in Model 3s, oh, that's not for the driver. That's for the passenger. You know, they only have one big screen in the middle. The automaker added the games in an over-the-air software update this summer, but they can be played by a passenger in full view of the driver or by the driver. So either way, it's kind of distracting. I feel like Elon just says...
passenger doesn't have a phone where they can play
come
games?
on.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Tesla and its chief executive, Elon Musk, did not respond to several queries from the New York Times about the video games and whether they could jeopardize safety. Elon's very available if you want to talk about Dogecoin, but don't ask him about safety.
It reminds me of the press conference he did where he throws the rock at the car.
The Cybertruck.
Smashes the window.
We were talking about that today, actually, with Sam Abul-Samad. The Cybertruck, was supposed to have bulletproof windows. And so one of Elon's employees comes out with a heavy metal cannonball.
Elon did it too. He was like, are you sure you want to do that? He's like, Elon's like, yeah, let's do this.
Throws it against the window. It smashes. And then Elon has to continue his presentation for another hour in front of a smashed window. It wasn't the best look. The Cybertruck, we actually just, the reason we're talking about this is there was a tweet. Somebody was flying a drone over the Tesla factory and saw a new model of the Cybertruck in the parking lot that originally the Cybertruck didn't have side mirrors. Turns out It's a minor thing, but the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration requires that you have side mirrors, so they put those on there. It also, oddly, was lacking in its original design a windshield wiper. Now, at least according to the drone photo, it has a 3-foot long, 3-foot long windshield wiper that covers the whole thing. Are there two? I thought it was just one. Oh, there's two blades because nobody sells windshield wiper blades that are 3 feet long, so you have two long blades. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't mock Tesla. But
no, it's okay. It's easy to mock Tesla.
Yeah, it is. Well, when you look at this is not nearly as aggressive and ugly as the original Cybertruck. Although I imagine there's a lot of people who will want to buy the same kind of.
Oh yeah, didn't it?
People buy Hummers and things like that.
That's a beautiful truck.
You like that? Are you going to get one, Alex?
It's interesting.
I'm not going to get one, but I would get one.
Yeah.
If I lived.
Look at the size of that windshield wiper.
Oh, it's glorious. Look at it.
Part of the problem is, unlike most cars which have rectangular screens, this has a giant square screen, windscreen. So you need a big windshield wiper.
I don't know. I just think the angles, the metal, the windows.
It's kind of cool. Yeah.
Power.
Yeah.
It's a nice looking car. Ooh, look at that little triangle window type of thing.
Yeah. Don't throw
it's like Tesla porn.
It's Tesla porn. Don't throw a cannonball at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Look. Well,
in
also
fairness,
when driving
In fairness,
the side mirrors do kind of ruin the look, though.
Well, they say you can remove them. They're magnetically attached. I wouldn't
Velcro.
Also, you would just look kind of cool driving one of those things around. People will look.
Sure. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And anything can bounce off of it except for one of those
Cannonballs.
heavy-
Don't throw cannonballs at it. Nope.
do that. But otherwise,
Yep.
it would be great for driving in New York, actually, because everyone has a
They'll get out of the way.
Yeah.
New York, a lot of
kidding.
mountain ranges in New York for the big truck.
Nobody. Okay, everybody knows this. People who buy those, off-road vehicles, they're driving down the street. They're not going off.
The best is the pickup trucks. Yeah, it's true. They're not using it to put stuff into for renovations or to put stuff into the back.
Well, there are people around here who do that. Kickstarter, I don't know what could possibly go wrong, is moving its crowdfunding platform to blockchain. It's creating a new company to develop and distribute the technology. They will reveal this on Wednesday. A Kickstarter will unveil, this is from Bloomberg, will unveil a project that will merge the two worlds, hatching a standalone company to build a crowdfunding system much like Kickstarter's, but based on blockchain technology. You just throw the word in blockchain and it's fresh and new. I don't know how that changes things. New company doesn't have a name as far as we know. They're going to transition its current site to the new protocol sometime next year. Behind the scenes, it shouldn't affect how people use the site. You don't have to suddenly use Bitcoin or anything. I'm banned from Kickstarter because I've invested in far too many projects that have never. Sometimes I'll get, and this happened to you. Sometimes I'll get a thing in the mail I don't remember buying. I got this backpack for photographers or something. It turns out it was a Kickstarter project from years ago that they finally made something. And it was awful.
It's hilarious.
I never got Toots the Unicorn. Somebody in the chat room. Mashed potato reminding me of that. That was a rainbow farting unicorn. No, never got that. I kind of wish I had the idea. I should log on and see what's going on with the Toots project.
No wonder that it didn't get its fundraising goal.
I think it did, but I think it did get its fund. That's the thing. It got its goal, but they still didn't make it. There's no requirement, that you make the thing. Let me see. All of the things I've purchased on Kickstarter. The Solo V2 safety net against phishing. The phone case that does more with zero bulk. The UV, we did get that, John,
oh my
right?
God.
The UV mask You never got yours, John? All day active UVC air purification face mask. You can have mine. It's so heavy, like your head bows down. I did get the Hygiene Hand antimicrobial brass EDC door opener, but the only problem with that is it took them so long to make it that long before I got it, I saw people using it. They say, "Oh yeah, it was on eBay for $1," because they were copied immediately. Where is Toots the unicorn? I did get my F-lashes, fun interactive LED eyelashes. I haven't had the nerve to wear those yet. Maybe they took Toots the unicorn off my list because I don't think it's ever going to happen. The idea was if you could tie it into Twitter. Here was a good investment. My very first Kickstarter, decentralized the web with Diaspora, fully funded. This was going to replace Facebook. You remember that?
I do remember that.
2013, $200,000 they raised. It's, by the way, you can go there. It's there. It's a website. Anyway, maybe blockchain will make it better.
You're
let's
such an optimist.
see. Michael Strahan wants to go back into space. He says, "I want to go back. I can't get enough of space." Well, yeah, because you only had like 3 minutes. Michael Strahan, the host of Good Morning America, former NFL player, yesterday went up with the New Shepard aircraft. There were actually 6 people aboard. It's the largest group of people on New Shepard. They experienced a few minutes of weightlessness and breathtaking views of the Earth before descending back.
This is the new addiction, Leo. The new addiction, space.
You got $250,000.
Once you get it, you can't get enough of it.
Not the final frontier. Also on the flight, Laura Shepard Churchley, the oldest daughter of Alan Shepard. The rocket is called the New Shepard, named after Alan Shepard's first American in space. How many years ago was that? 1960 something. So like 50 years ago. Strahan and Churchley both flew for free. The other 4 paid. We don't know how much, but it's estimated around $250,000. It's expensive to do this. Sure, you want to go into space?
I would do it.
Would you? I think I would do it too.
It kind of freaks me out though. Like, but it seems like it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
at this
so
point.
far, nothing's blown up yet.
But yeah, I mean, it seems like pretty amazing to have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
What are you going to do though? What are you going to like actually do while you're there versus just take it in for yourself?
Just got to memorize it because it's going to be over so soon, so quickly.
You got to wear some snap glasses.
There you go. Let's see what else. Suddenly, TCL has stopped selling their Google TV. Apparently, if you bought it, I'm sorry, software problems with it. They've pulled. Best Buy was the only retailer to sell these Google TVs. They've pulled them all. The entire line mysteriously disappeared, according to 9 to 5 Google, due to performance complaints. Both the 5 and 6 series TCLs, or other TCLs have Roku built in, which works great. In fact, my mom, I got her one, but I guess the Google TV not working so well in the TCLs. I guess a word of warning.
Well, is it though? Because some people saying that there was no problem with it. So not that I want
think there's
to
something else?
Speculate too much, but
what do you
somebody
think?
else is making TVs now, and they haven't actually revealed who the manufacturer is, but they look a lot like TCL TVs.
Oh, those Amazon TVs you're talking about? Mm-hmm. Amazon with Amazon's Fire built in? Oh, that's a better theory. I like that. Let's start that rumor. So TCL, which no one knows, but apparently has done a deal to make TVs for Amazon.
It hasn't been confirmed, so I'm totally speculating.
We're admitting this is a complete rumor. I like it. There was a great story about how nobody's naming kids anymore. Duh. I just feel bad for the people who are already named. But you may remember when Amazon picked that there was a very well-known website, Alexa.com. Remember that? Anybody?
Analytics. Yep.
Analytics.
Yeah, you could figure out how many people were going to a website. But the nice thing about it was that it was always inaccurate. So
yeah, because in order for it to work, I remember this, and people would tout it, number one on Alexa. In order for it to work, the people visiting the site had to be running the Alexa plugin on their browser. So it was just, self-selected group, and then they would statistically multiply it by a big number to get the actual number. So apparently, in order to use the name, Amazon bought Alexa.com, and they are now shutting it down. Nobody.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Pour one out.
We hardly knew ye. May 2022, no new monthly stats will be released going forward. The company said 25 years ago, wow. 25 years ago, we founded Internet after 2 decades of helping you, yes, you, find, reach, and convert your digital audience. We've made the difficult decision, or at least Jeff Bezos did, to retire on May 1st. Thank you for making us your go-to resource for content research, competitive analysis, keyword research, and so much.
Can they just change the name?
They're going to actually literally shut down the API. So it's pretty
There was
much
enough money there at this point. They're like, let's just cash out.
Now, Google has analytics that everybody uses. I wonder if Amazon has an analytics platform. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure they have for themselves. Are you excited about Meta? Shira, are you going to get all in on the metaverse and wear a visor around? And is that going to be you? Are you? You're
I
the
feel
only
like the
hip person I know. So
I really appreciate it. I don't know what that says about me or you.
It's more about me than anything, I think.
But I think it's interesting. I definitely think the idea of, doing things in the metaverse is going to be big. I'm getting more into NFTs.
Are you?
And
see,
yeah.
She's hip.
I'm hip.
She's with it.
And then different even coins, are then going into NFTs in the metaverse and like different utility coins or companies on the blockchain. I do think it's buzzy, but then also it will be functional. I mean, I did a keynote in the metaverse the other week. I went to a conference in the metaverse and did a keynote.
Did you have legs or not? Which kind of metaverse was it? Was the one where
I did, but it was I did it. I was on my desktop, so I wasn't wearing anything.
Okay.
I didn't have to. Yeah.
Okay.
But
the people who were attending, you were virtual.
Yeah, we were all virtual. We had our avatars and everything. It's just basically like similar to the gaming communities, right? But it's just like other things that live in the virtual universe. I don't know how much we're going to use it for like work. I mean, like, will every meeting be in the metaverse? I think that will just get like annoying.
Oh, I hope not. I don't know if I can handle it.
I do think though, communities, like where it's really going to shine is within like niche communities where you can like connect with each other, whether, you've bought NFTs, you're part of the Discord, you have access to the metaverse. Or
and you're in Clubhouse.
Events.
And that's the trifecta, ladies and gentlemen. Hat trick. You did it all. Blockchain, NFT, right? Metaverse, Clubhouse. You got it all.
Yeah, it's gonna be part of it, or like dating or events, like anything you would want to do virtually that you can't necessarily do in person, to have access to the metaverse experience of that. I can definitely see that happening. And then doing transactions in the metaverse. I mean, have you seen the whole real estate stuff in the metaverse? That's crazy.
Wait a minute. Are you buying a house in the real world
People
or in the metaverse?
People are buying real estate in the metaverse.
Oh, that's just Second Life.
Yeah, it's Second Life. It's like everything's old is new again.
Yeah.
What do you want? It's a reinvention.
Are you old enough to remember Second? Did you play in Second Life?
Me? No, I was never into that.
Yeah.
But I was also, I to be honest, I've never been into gaming that much. So when I was in the metaverse,
okay,
and I was moving around, someone who was directing me where to go to get to my keynote, he kept seeing me going in circles because I couldn't figure out how to move my body or like
That's a great
it was
image.
Really, literally, I was like moving up and down, seeing every perspective. I was like, how do I just move forward?
I just want to go
and just
forward.
see in front of me. I have no fucking idea.
Go forward.
So noob. I'm such a noob.
I think I saw Alex Kantrowitz in a bear suit in Second Life once. Was that you?
I wasn't planning on announcing that news on this show, but as long as we're here,
You're a furry. I know you are.
After denying this for close to 15 years, I will.
The exclusive dropped.
Did you ever play Grand Theft Auto?
Of course.
Yeah. Who didn't? Did you suddenly start carjacking cars in the real life?
Well, Leo, I wasn't planning on addressing this on the show.
Wow.
Putting you on the spot on this
years
one.
Not speaking about this, I will say, yes, I did do many carjackings in Grand Theft Auto, and I have no regrets.
An Illinois state, according to Eyewitness News Chicago, an Illinois state lawmaker is proposing a ban on Grand Theft Auto because of a recent surge in carjackings around the Chicago area. He says it's all because of Grand Theft Auto, and he's plans to ban sales of the game in Illinois.
Leo,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
He says carjacking is not normal, and carjacking must stop. I don't know if you live in Illinois and you voted this clown in. You have my deepest sympathy. He says this is, I'll give you his name, Marcus Evans. He's a Democratic state representative. Grand Theft Auto, by the way, has been around since 1997. So if it's suddenly causing a surge in carjackings, I don't know. He also thanked a community activist, Early Walker, for starting Operation Safe Pump. Not what it sounds like. Security teams are patrolling gas stations to protect people while they're pumping gas, which apparently is where a lot of carjackings happen. Walker says Representative Evans and I have researched and concluded these very young offenders of carjacking are greatly influenced by the Grand Theft Auto video game. I believe there is bipartisan support to ban this game from being sold in Illinois. I shouldn't laugh. Carjackings, nothing to laugh at. Grand Theft Auto, on the other hand.
Well, it's
everything on video games.
We've suffered too long from politicians that have been corrupt and largely unwilling to take on the real evils in society.
Finally,
and so
they're stepping
I
forward.
Representative Evans for going there and taking on what's really ailing us, Grand Theft Auto, and I do think that it's time for us to take on some other serious societal problems. For instance, let's start to take on the serious epidemic of thievery. And I think we should ban Oceans 11, 12, 13.
All these casino robberies, one after the other. It's because of those movies.
It's horrible. And, while we're at it, I think we need to start to talk about the Scrooge of prison breaks. And therefore, I'm calling on representatives across the United States to ban the Shawshank Redemption.
Have you noticed more and more young people are trying to dig holes to the center of the earth? And I blame Minecraft.
Gotta ban it.
Gotta ban it. Gotta ban it. They're just digging down. Here's a story that unites Carolina and Alex. Italy finds Amazon 1.13 billion euros. Now we're talking, because a lot of these fines, 70 million, 12 million. Big deal. But, we're talking billions now for abusing market dominance. This is the Italian Competition Authority. Although now, Carolina, correct me, but I like to call it the Autorità Garante della Correzione del Mercato. That's wrong. Concorrenza. I love Italian. The Autorità Garante della Concorrenza e del Mercato. Is that right?
Sir.
Is that pretty good?
That's right.
Is it close?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Would they laugh me out of Milan if I said it that way? The AGCM. They say Amazon's giving sellers using its Amazon Logistics, fulfillment by Amazon, advantages in terms of visibility and sales, including access to its Prime label. Amazon says we will appeal, but it is a big fine, 1.13 billion euros. Good for the Try it one more time. Autorità Garante della Concorrenza e del Mercato. Good for them, taking a stand. Big news in the U.S. Jessica Warzenwassel is now the chairman, or has been confirmed by the Senate, to lead the FCC, the first female chair in FCC history. She is one of the best, as far as I'm concerned personally, one of the best FCC commissioners. She really understands things like net neutrality, will be an excellent FCC chairperson. And amazingly, I don't know how you get this kind of a vote in the Senate as it's constituted today, 68-31. So, wow, nice. She will, it is thought, place particular emphasis on broadband access, increasing high-speed internet coverage in underserved areas.
Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Congrats.
On the other hand, I don't think Gigi Sohn is going to get in there. She's been kind of, she won't get a full Senate vote till after the new year. And she is the fifth and currently open seat for the FCC nominee from President Biden. Let's take a little break. We got to wrap things up. We're going way long. Thank you. You guys are very patient. But let me quick break. Then a final story. Birds are not real, and I'm going to prove it to you. Our show today brought to you by userway.org. Now, this is real. There is a real problem for 60 million Americans with disabilities. When they come to your website, they can't use it. They can't navigate it. The images don't have alt tags. And the worst for you, they can't use your shopping cart. They can't fill in forms. They can't use it. You need to make your website accessible. You need to make it ADA compliant. It's a federal law that says websites are public entities and have to provide equal access to its services for all Americans. Domino's found that out the hard way. The big national pizza chain, they said, well, wait a minute, our website has a phone number. They went all the way to the Supreme Court on this one. Supreme Court said, nope, that's separate but equal. The ADA requires accessibility. So the good news is you can do it with Userway. Userway has an incredible AI-powered solution that tirelessly enforces all of those complicated web content accessibility guidelines, and they do it with one line of JavaScript. It could do more than an entire team of developers. Userway's AI and machine learning solutions power accessibility for over 1 million websites, including some of the biggest websites in the world. Coca-Cola uses it, Disney, eBay, FedEx, Walmart all use Userway. And now this top-of-the-line, best-in-class enterprise-level accessibility tool is available to you, small and medium business owners. I was shocked at how affordable it is. It's less than the cost of the fonts on our front page, the Google fonts that we pay for. When you scale, you need Userway because it's going to grow with you. If it can handle Disney, it can handle you. An accessible and compliant website, not just the right thing to do, it's good for business. An Achilles heel for website registration forms, nav menus that leave out millions of people. Just ask the voice of Siri, Susan Bennett. She's a big fan.
Userway is trusted by more than 1 million websites and 60 million users with disabilities. Visit userway.org to learn how one line of code can make your website accessible.
Whether you're using WordPress, Shopify, Wix, it's easy to add. Same for AEM, Sitecore, SharePoint, even any site that's hand-coded, any site at all, because if you can add a line of JavaScript that pulls in all the Userway AI, machine learning, computer vision, it's going to go in there. It's automatically generating alt tags for your images. It uses its computer vision to generate image descriptions. You can add to it. But it gets you started. It will remediate complex nav menus, make sure all your pop-ups are accessible, even make your colors accessible while remaining true to your brand. And you'll get a detailed report of all the violations that were fixed. Look, check it out. Go to userway.org/twit. They've got a scanning tool. Just see if your site's ADA compliant. You at least do that. And then if it's not, I got to tell you, this is the easiest way to do it. Userway can make any website fully accessible, ADA compliant, avoid lawsuits. Most importantly, serve a community that needs your help just a little bit. to make your website accessible. With UserWay, everyone who visits your site can browse seamlessly, can customize it to fit their needs. This is a way to show your commitment to millions of people with disabilities, open up a whole new market, and just do the right thing. Go to userway.org/twit. I'm a big supporter. Get 30% off. I hear from blind users all the time because of the radio show. Our stuff is audio, right? So we have a lot of blind listeners. And it's frustrating to go out on the web. A lot of sites need UserWay. UserWay's AI-powered accessibility solution makes the internet accessible for everyone. Visit userway.org/twit. They're making a big difference. And thank you, UserWay, for your support. We had a great week this week on Twit. You know what I was going to... John, do you have that video? Let's play the video. You could see this for yourself. Burke, it's time to deck the halls.
Everybody who's watching this on the stream, this is the power of Leo Laporte. Saying, I declare it Christmas. Scramble, scramble, scramble. Quick, 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 quick.
Wait a minute. I think it's unbalanced. There's more on the left than there are on the right. Oh, Burke, are you the Grinch this year? He was not happy.
Previously on Twit. Security Now.
A botnet has infected more than 1 million Windows machines globally and continues to infect new machines at a rate of thousands more per day. Is using the public Bitcoin blockchain technology to protect itself from disruption.
This week in Enterprise Tech.
For services like Ring, Disney Plus, Roku, Coinbase, Venmo, and I got a laundry list more of these things that are out there. They got a lesson in redundancy and fail over this past week. That's right, AWS went down. Maybe shocked to hear, it was human error.
Mac Break Weekly.
Bad guys are putting air tags on high-end vehicles. According to the York Regional Police,
those hosers are abusing their air tags.
They're hosers. They're putting air tags in your gas or your trailer hitch.
That's how they stole the maple syrup.
Like, I just didn't expect this from Canada.
According to the York.
Twit, making the world safe for technology.
Burke did such a good job decorating the studio that we haven't touched a thing, which might explain why I have these strange antlers in front of me. There's a metal deer. I don't know. Maybe that's is that a reindeer? Is that one of Santa's? Is that Dasher or Dancer? Or
make sure it doesn't hurt you.
Can you? Yeah, it looks dangerous, doesn't it? It was so good. I couldn't touch it. He did such a good job. Thursday, this is, sure, you don't have this yet, but any minute now, you're going to say, it happens to everybody, why is it so dark in this restaurant? I can hardly read the menu. You're going to say, are they making the print on websites smaller? Because you are going to, as you cross, and I know it's years away, cross the age of 40, suddenly suffer what we all suffer, which is farsightedness, the inability to read, because your eyes get older. And
thanks for the explanation.
Just ahead of time, there is a new drop. The FDA has approved it. It will be hitting the market on Thursday. An eye drop from a company called Vuity takes effect in 15 minutes. One drop in each eye provides sharper vision for 6 to 10 hours. An eye drop. You don't need readers. You don't have to go to the drugstore and go to the Dr. Dinadel. None of you don't know. Carolina, you might remember that. But yeah. So, would you use an eye drop instead of wearing readers?
I'm as blind as a bat, so I'm -11 on both eyes.
Oh, my
so
God. You really are.
Time.
Holy cow. I thought I was blind as a bat. You're worse than me. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and
so it is annoying to wear lenses, and now at the age of 52, having to wear readers as well.
It's the worst. You know, it's why I didn't get. Everybody said you should get that surgery that corrects your nearsightedness, and then I did. I talked to my doctor about it. He said, "But as soon as you hit 40, you're gonna have to wear glasses anyway because you can't read." And I thought, well, what's the point if I'm gonna have to wear glasses anyway? Presbyopia is the condition that older folks suffer from, unfortunately. Now, so that's the upside. Medical science, amazing. It's going to cost $80 for a 30-day supply. And how much do the Dr. Dinadel readers cost? $4.50. And it works best in people 40 to 55. After that, forget it. Side effects include headaches and red eyes. But that's, a small percentage of people. Just in the annals of medical science, a big breakthrough. And finally, I love this, and I actually want to give credit to the New York Times and the wonderful Taylor Lorenz. She is really good on following cultural trends, almost as good as you are, Shira Lazar, with what's trending.
I was the old, I'm the elder.
Yeah. You're the Taylor Lorenz of the internet.
You're the before her. No, I love her, actually. I've known her for years. She does really great work.
Isn't she good?
Yeah.
And you might have seen this now that you're in Atlanta, because this van has popped up in the Southeast. Have you seen this guy driving around in the van that says, "Birds aren't real. Wake up. Wake up. Birds are government surveillance drones. There are no birds." And, it's kind of credible. He says the birds, they charge on power lines. That explains a lot. That's why they're sitting there. He also on his van, his Birds Aren't Real van, has a picture of a bird that shows where the microphone, the camera, the antenna, the speaker, the battery, and the inductive charging coil are on the pigeon. It also says pigeons are liars. Liars! Last month, they protested outside Twitter headquarters in San Francisco to demand the company change its bird logo. Okay, but Taylor, thank you for telling us, because I thought it was real. It's not. It's all tongue-in-cheek. Birds, in fact, the founders of Birds Aren't Real know that birds are, in fact, real. It's a parody social movement to show how people are falling into the rabbit hole of conspiracy. And in fact, one of the founders said, if you actually believe that birds aren't real, you got a bigger problem than this. A spontaneous joke. They're actually buying billboards. This is the billboard in Memphis, Tennessee. Note, by the way, the birds perching on the billboard, proving it's true. They're probably trying to mess it up. And as our chat room is saying, Evil IRC is saying, if birds were real, wouldn't they just fly off the edge of the earth? What's keeping them on the planet? They know better.
Well, yeah, since the earth is flat.
Right.
I mean, they should know that.
Yeah. Here is in St. Louis, the founder of Birds Aren't Real burning a St. Louis Cardinals flag during a protest. On top of his Birds Aren't Real van. This is good. They actually sell Birds Aren't Real merchandise, which I would like to have. The money helps them cover their living expenses, several $1,000s a month. All the money from our merch lineup goes into making sure me and Connor can do this full time. None of the proceeds go to anything harmful. Birds aren't real. I think it's true.
It's brilliant. It's performance art.
It's great.
It is brilliant.
Yeah. I would like them to be at least giving the money. Like, it'd be fun to have them going to them. Then, or like some sort of nonprofit, or like a misinformation, news, journalism.
I don't think they make so much money. I think if they made a lot more, they might.
True.
But at this point, I think they're just barely paying for the van and the billboards. But you're right. It'd be nice if they make any extra. Let's just suggest that.
Yeah, but it's very smart. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like these folks get the next Comedy Central show, right? But then it's like, what's the next thing they're going to do, right?
Yeah. Shira, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm sorry you got COVID.
Thank you.
But now you're super immune. Like, you could just go out in the world and enjoy life.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to just jump right in.
Yeah. Cough on people, all of that. Say, no, don't worry. I've had COVID. I'm good. You will be back at work as soon as your test's negative. Yes?
Yeah. I'm going to be working from home until then.
Okay. Where can we find your work?
At Shira Lazar. Follow me everywhere. And if you're wondering what Peace Inside Live is, we create and produce mindfulness programs virtually and in person. We have a 21-day meditation challenge, which people are buying for the holidays, for their family, friends, and loved ones.
I like it.
You put in your information there. We don't sell it off to any sketchy people. And we also have a Thailand retreat coming up in March.
Oh, nice.
Oh, so I'll have to send that to you and Lisa.
Lisa and I did your Valentine's Day event and loved it. And that was led by that woman who was holding the thing.
Jordana. My co-founder who's in Thailand. So that's coming up and a lot more. Yeah. So go to the site to find out, to join our newsletter so we can bring you peace inside.
Nice.
Look at that. Come on.
That. Best beaches in the world, I'm told. The Islands of Thailand retreat.
I've never been. I'm looking forward to going, actually.
Man. Can you talk Lisa into this? She'll do it if you say.
Yeah, I'll send her a link.
Yeah. That sounds great. And Jordana will be leading it, but you're going to be there too.
And then I'm going to be there, helping, but also just attending, to be honest.
Yeah.
The itinerary is pretty amazing.
Oh, this looks incredible.
Then she has other facilitators in other areas that we're visiting who will be.
You're going to go to the Elephant Haven. I want to go to the Elephant Haven. That sounds cool. Oh, please talk Lisa into this. She listens to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shira. I'm glad you're feeling better. It's great to have you.
I appreciate it.
Alex Kantrowitz, big tech, trembles, shivers in its boots when the name Alex Kantrowitz comes up. Big Technology Podcast, bigtechnology.substack.com for the newsletter. The book, Always Day One. Plug something else. What else? Oh, you're muted. Is this us or is this you? Did you?
No, I was muted. I'll let people know what I have coming up this week on the podcast. Benedict Evans is going to come.
I love him.
This guy, he's great.
Oh, he's so brilliant.
We're going to talk about Meta. We're going to talk about whether Web3 is real or not. We'll talk about Andreessen Horowitz and what they're doing. And then last week, if you go to the feed now, you can see a discussion between Daniel Kahneman and Jan LeCun.
I love Daniel Kahneman of the Thinking Quickly, Breathing Slowly.
Fast and slow.
Something like that.
Which is all about how humans make decisions. And then Jan LeCun, who builds AI for Meta, and they had a discussion that's kind of academic, but talked a little bit about like how the human mind thinks and how you can transpose that into AI. And it was interesting because we started, my thought was we would have a conversation focused on trying to learn about where AI was going, but actually like there was a debate about how the human brain works. And then, I found that kind of interesting. Like you can learn a little bit about how we as humans think. If you think about what it's like to build a brain, quote unquote, from the ground up when you're building AI. Anyway, it was pretty interesting. So I would recommend people go check it out on Big Technology.
God, this sounds like a must listen. That's some great people.
It was fun.
Yeah, we quote Benedict Evans all the time. He's really smart.
Yeah, he's great.
Oh, that's neat. Can I get it from bigtechnology.substack.com or is there a special place for the podcast?
Yeah, if you go to Big Technology Podcast on your podcast app of choice, Apple, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Cast, whatever cast you use, it will be there.
This is the one thing we have to fight as podcasters. We've got to find a better way to spread the word, because that's right. That dialogue that you just did. Every podcast in the world, that's how we all end with it, right?
Wherever you find your podcasts.
Wherever you find your podcasts. I want to listen to Daniel Kahneman. He's amazing. Love his book. Yeah. Jan LeCun, I've heard about for years. I would be very curious what he has to say.
Yeah.
So that's great. Good stuff. Fun. Thank you, Alex. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Leo. Always great to be on the show.
Carolina Milanese is giving me Italian lessons. She's the founder of the Heart of Tech. I think this whole show, we should just do it in Italian. It's such a good language.
Con piacere, la prossima volta parliamo solo in italiano.
Oh, so
wow.
That is hot. How do you say, so in French, they say a computer is an ordinateur, which is a terrible name. What is the name for computer in Italian?
Computer.
That's a good name. That's a good name. Why don't the French call it a computer? Okay, computer. But you say computer. You say it like that. You sort of give it a little bit of a little romance.
Well, the actual word is sistema informatico, which is similar to the French, but nobody says that anymore.
Yeah. Probably nobody says ordinateur anymore as well. Tell us about the Heart of Tech.
The Heart of Tech is a company that helps tech company really get serious about diversity and inclusion and CSR, and not using it as a marketing tool, but really putting their money where their mouth is, and change the way they operate from a product perspective, as well as towards their employees as well.
So important. So important.
My other work is Creative Strategies, which is a tech company, a consultancy company. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. You cannot find me on, well, you can, but I'm never on Facebook. And LinkedIn at Caro Milanesi. And I have a column on Forbes where I talk about technology and the impact on society.
I should have, and we didn't get around to it, talked about Apple and the changes at Apple, and now pretty much everybody who was involved in getting Apple to kind of pay attention to equity is gone. And I don't know if that's because Apple's pushed them out, or they've, I don't know, thought there's better places for them to be. But I feel like that movement has kind of ended, sort of, which is too bad. Cher Scarlett. Oh, wait a minute. She was going to withdraw her complaint, and now she's not. Oh, that's interesting.
She's not. Yeah.
Oh, she backed down. See, I thought maybe they paid her off. She left, withdrew her complaint with the NLRB. No, she's not withdrawing it. Okay, well, I guess we'll be talking about that on Tuesday. Do you have any thoughts you want to throw in on this? Is this?
They did come into an agreement, and as part of that agreement, she was going to withdraw the complaint. Now I don't know what is going on. So because
she'll have to give up, usually the way that works is they say, we're going to give you $30,000 in severance, but you have to sign this that says you will drop the complaint and not say anything more. And perhaps what happened is she said, well, take your money and stick it, because I'm going to keep the complaint going. Very interesting. Very interesting. I think good for her. That's a brave stand to take, and a costly, no doubt.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed when I heard that she came to an agreement, because it seemed that, she fought for a long time. I don't know, I'm not sure I have all the information to make a call of whether or not what happened is what happened, but it was, it's always better not to settle and see this thing to the end. So
looks like actually the NLRB had something to do with it. They rejected her withdrawal requests because Apple added a clause saying that she would not solicit, encourage, or incite anyone to file any charge or complaint with any administrative agency or court against Apple for 1 year. And the NLRB said, you got to leave that out. You can't, that's not even legal. They requested Apple strike, encourage, or incite. Apple said no. And the NLRB has, as a result, said, well, you don't get to withdraw it because we're going to pursue this one. So Apple, that's just more evidence that Apple is trying to suppress all of this rather than let it resolve itself. Carolina, thank you. And the Heart of Tech does important work, and we appreciate your being here. It's always great to have you. We thank you all for joining us. We do the show This Week in Tech every Sunday afternoon, about 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, 22:30 UTC. I mentioned that because you can watch us do it live, kind of a behind-the-scenes feed, audio or video, at live.twit.tv. Watching live, chat live at irc.twit.tv. And, of course, club members, as always, can chat with us live with all of the animated GIFs and all in Discord. And they do. They definitely do. After the fact, on-demand versions of everything we do available for free at our website, twit.tv. Every one of the shows has its own YouTube channel for youtube.com/thisweekintech, for instance, or for the master channel, youtube.com/twit, and you'll find links there to all the shows. And just as my friend Alex said, you can find us in every podcatcher. All you have to do is subscribe, and you'll get it automatically the minute it's available, wherever finer podcasts are distributed. Do me a favor, though, if you do subscribe in a podcast application that allows reviews, leave us a 5-star review. That would sure help. When you've been around as long as we have, 15 years, people kind of forget that you exist. You don't show up on the charts anymore because, you're old timers, and it'd be nice to spread the word. Let others know that This Week in Tech is still 15 years later, still on the air. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Another Twit is in the can.